little bit of my experience is using Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, things like meet.google.com, etc. So the last quarter of my university degree, which I was taking with Gene and Banu, we started using Zoom for all of our classes. And Zoom was an upcoming company. Even though they've been around for a while, they hadn't scaled properly, and they weren't necessarily prepared for this boom in universities that are going to be needing to use their platform to run classes. So we kind of learned together, and some of the things that I started noticing is that a lot of the professors wouldn't have uniform classroom rules from one professor to the next. So maybe one professor would say, everyone needs to have their camera on and their microphone muted all the time. And then another one wouldn't mind if some of the students had their cameras on and some of them didn't. A lot of students would use backgrounds. So rather than something like I have just my regular apartment in the background, they would have some artificial background, and lots of people started making it fun, which is entertaining, but at the same time, somewhat distracting. And then another situation that I noticed was that some of the professors didn't know how to properly implement the tools that were available, such as breakout rooms, raising your hand, Q&A, things like that. And so moving forward, I think that when it comes to using the softwares, the professors who are running the classes are going to need to be retrained. They're going to need more training to learn how to implement these items properly. So before I move on and talk about the next item, I wanted to know if anybody else has had any experience using something like what we're using now, or WebEx or Zoom, that has been negative or positive, and if you wanted to share. And I don't see a way to raise the hand in here anywhere, so I'll just wait if anybody says something. Okay, moving on then. Speaking of retraining, one of the problems that I've noticed is that a lot of the professors want to record their lectures ahead of time. And some of the recorded lectures would have, like what just happened to me, some sound in the background. So my phone just vibrated because I had it sitting next to me, or their dogs barking, or their kids in the background, and some other things like that. So this goes back to retraining staff members. And for professors specifically, it's going to be expensive and very time consuming. But I think it'd be really important when it comes to this aspect of virtual and digital education that the professors know what they're doing properly. And we had one professor who I feel was very well prepared for all of her lectures. She taught a negotiations class, and she used a program outside of Zoom to get everyone engaged, which I thought was great. Another problem that I've noticed personally, and that I've been reading about recently, some articles on this specifically, is the problem with test taking and proctoring. So something that's happening at my alma mater right now is when you take a test, they're using some artificial intelligence software in order to proctor the tests. And the problem with that can be that if you read a question out loud to yourself, like some students do, it will pick that up as cheating and automatically fail you because it thinks you're talking to someone else. So the artificial intelligence isn't there yet. It's not built in strongly enough. So that's a problem that I think we're going to face. And also myself personally, in continuing my education, working towards some finance licensures, I was specifically taking a test, and I found myself reading one of the questions aloud on my own, and the proctor actually stopped and wanted to know who I was talking to. So I thought that that was a little interesting and a problem that people are going to run into. I'm going to open the floor again to ask if anyone else has run into any situations like this. Okay, well then I will move on to the last topic, which is the social distancing aspect. And what I wanted to mention about this specifically is I live next to an elementary school, or very nearby an elementary school. And Monday through Friday, the elementary school, the campus itself is closed, but the teachers are there on campus. And what they're doing is, it's almost kind of like a blended classroom, I guess, but in a different sense. they have the teachers on campus, and the teachers are actually in the front of the classroom teaching like they normally would, using all of the resources they have readily available to them, while the students are at home, maybe in a situation like I am currently, where they're sitting at a desk and then they've got their computer on in front of them, they've got their classmates around them, and then they've got their teacher giving their lecture to them. So I see this as a short-term solution, but not necessarily a long-term solution. And I don't know, I know a lot of you professors are over in India. Have you guys been dealing with this situation specifically in terms of social distancing for getting back to the classroom, whether it be university level or high school, junior high, et cetera? Has anybody had any experience dealing with this? Okay, well then, on that note, I guess I will just share a little bit more about my experience when I was teaching overseas. I actually lived and worked in China for many years, and I was teaching there. I was teaching high school economics, and there were times when students wouldn't be able to come to school, couldn't make it, or they're underprivileged students who don't have the financial capabilities of being able to pay for these schools and things like that. So one thing that I think we should move towards in the future when it comes to online classes, virtual digital education, e-learning in general, is that it opens a window of opportunity so that the less fortunate can benefit from the more fortunate if used properly. It doesn't have to change the structure of the schooling for anyone in particular. It would just it would add maybe more of a workload onto the professors. But then we have technology that could help to alleviate some of that workload as well. And in the future, I think that because of COVID-19 specifically, we're going to see that more people have the opportunity to receive a better education than they would have pre-pandemic times, specifically because technology is going to improve by leaps and bounds over the next couple of years, not only from this, but from, I think, entrepreneurs before COVID happened that were working on things like virtual reality classrooms, et cetera. They're just really going to accelerate it. And I think a lot of investors are going to push a lot more funds into it, to these startups that are going to be able to help accelerate the technology even faster. So that being said, if no one has any questions for me, I'm going to go ahead and hand it back off to Banu. And I'll give you guys a second just to see if anybody has any questions. All right, well, thank you all for your time very much, and feel free to enter any questions into the chat log, and I'd be happy to answer them. And thank you for your time. Banu?
Yeah, thanks, Michael.
Mr. Michael,
Yeah.
I have no question from you, but I want to tell you something about social distancing, which you spoke about now.
Okay.
We were talking of new normal. In India, there is now no new normal. Our country is touching 1 lakh and over 1 lakh every day. But there is no social distancing. There is no new normal. It is all the old normal, and everything is as usual as it used to be about a year back. Crowd in vegetable markets, crowd all over. Whoever wants to do anything is doing everything. So I don't think people even think about coronavirus in India. I don't think. There is no effect, absolutely no effect, except for even the examinations are being carried out physically in the classrooms. Children are going to the college, teachers are going to the college, although they can work from home, but they are allowed, they have been asked to go. It is a compulsion. They have to go and they have to appear for the exam. Although they talk about virtual exams and online exams and all those things, but it's not being followed and nobody is bothering. Even the government says you have to carry on the exams. You have to you have to call the children here. Teachers are on invigilation duties. There is absolutely no new normal. It's almost all, everything is old normal, and we don't even think that there is any coronavirus effect here now. If I have to go, I will go just like this. Even people are not wearing masks. What about social distancing? Social distancing, I can't even tell you. If I show you the videos, you will all be surprised. This is what is the either lack of education or due to awareness creation. There is no awareness. What we do, we are just programming something and burdening it people with that. No, it should not be like that. You have to create awareness. What is coronavirus? How it should be protected? How you can protect yourself from coronavirus? Nobody thinks of that. So what I think is that instead of talking about education, we should first talk about educating the leaders of this country. They do not know how to motivate. They do not know how to sensitize the people. They do not know how to create awareness among the people that what has to be done. It is a very serious matter. Corona is not an easy joke, but we are not taking it. So talking about social distancing, I don't think if, just imagine here also, so many teachers are sitting on this platform. All the videos are switched off. I'm surprised. What kind of education is this? When the teachers are sitting here, the teachers know that it is a virtual program. Can you imagine if a teacher is not switching on the video? How will the child, how will the student switch on the video? How will you monitor his teachings, the lessons that you are giving to him or to her? How will you monitor whether he is taking your lessons or not? Whether he is listening to you or not? All teachers have joined here. Academicians are here. The videos are switched off. We don't even know. We can't monitor anything.
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate situation, and we've had to deal with the same thing here. Like I was mentioning specifically, you have to have a set of rules before someone joins in where the camera needs to be turned on, and if not, then you should remove them from, I mean, let me rephrase that. There should be an opportunity given for individuals on their own to have their cameras on. And every now and then there might be a proper reason why someone can't use their camera, but the majority of people should have their cameras on if that's what's asked for specifically. And if not, then there needs to be some form of negative ramification for not having it on, such as maybe depending on what the point of the actual seminar is, maybe they're removed from it or they have to retake it another time. This is something that has to be worked out on an individual basis, but there are workarounds for it. And I think when the rules are very stringent and you have a specific set of norms that people have to follow and you push them on people and there is something negative that happens for not following them, more people over time will follow them because they'll see that they're not allowed to participate in the activities that they normally would if they were not having their camera on, etc.
Yeah. You know, I would like to add one more thing here, that the people who are into virtual education system now, online education, can you imagine a country like India? I think most of you know the poverty rate of this country. And then the children who are taking education from remote corner of a village, he doesn't have an internet connection. Even though he has, it doesn't work. Even now here also you can see what is the speed we are getting and how we are connecting. It's always breaking. It's very feeble. And then what happens? You have a mobile camera, mobile phone. The children are looking like this, like this. You see, I'm sitting on a 36 inches screen for the last 5 months, and I have developed dry eye. This is the blue filter lens I'm using. Especially, I have imported it from US just to use and protect my eyes. What will the village children do? Do they have any other option other than doing it like this? Will they not spoil their eyes at this small, tender age? These all things have to be thought not only by our Indian government. It has to be collectively thought by entire world. The world leaders should unite together and think about it, how to make it very cheap, how to make it accessible to all people, how to reach these cheap products to the remotest corner and to the poorest people of this world, so that I don't talk only about India. I'm talking of everyone. Poverty is everywhere in the world. It's not that some country is without poverty, but people, common men, should get the accessibility to all these things. They should get the supply of these things at a very cheap rate so that they don't find themselves handicapped. I think I'm right or wrong?
Yeah, that's a situation that's been ongoing for a long time. And as some countries are able to move out of poverty more quickly, but there's still going to be remote villages, and there are still going to be situations that transpire where not everyone is going to have access to the right kind of education. And I think that you're right when it comes to the idea of it's not just the local government or even the regional government. It does have more to do with, in my opinion, wealthier countries, wealthier nations helping those that are less fortunate in terms of economic standards per se. So it's something that's going to be an ongoing process, and it can't be fixed immediately. But I hope at the same time you're seeing more wealth flood into the country, and seeing some of those different regions that were formerly very poverty stricken, at least maybe pulling out a little bit, and some form of an attempt, at least, for people to try to help not only within your own country, but from other countries as well. So I do agree that that is a situation that's going to be faced by many countries around the world moving forward. But I hope that we're seeing progress as well. Personally, I don't see it because of where I live. I'm lucky enough to live in a nation that's wealthy enough, and an area of the nation that's wealthy enough to be able to offer access to all students for education. But I know that not everyone is able to afford that. And so I hope that from your point of view and what you see more often than I do, that you see something positive happening, and that people are being at least lifted out somewhat into a new availability of education. Maybe this can help to push that even more so as we digitize more.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Michael. And Mr. Bhanu Teja, I will take only half a minute more, because I need to give some information about coronavirus. This is the latest thing that I'm going to tell you now. The World Health Organization has given a report which says that even if you are asymptomatic and had coronavirus positive, don't think you are safe and protected for the life. After 6 months, at any stage, at any time, your heart can get affected, your kidneys can get affected, your livers can get affected, anything can happen. So be very careful, don't get it relapsed anymore. And one more thing, very important thing, sanitizers and masks, they should be of good quality. And as per me, it should be monitored by the government of every country. But I talk of India. In India, there is no monitoring of these products. Even if somebody is selling a water bottle full of water with color in it at 10 rupees a bottle on the roadside, we are buying it. And we think we are protected after using the sanitizer. But it is not protecting you. Similarly, the mask, if it is plastic made, plastic coated, the coronavirus can stay on it for 72 hours. So please be very careful while you buy a mask. Don't buy it from the roadside. That is just an advice. It's your option. I have given you an information which WHO says that on plastics, coronavirus can stay for 72 hours. Masks should be of good quality, triple layer. If you can't buy a mask, don't buy it from roadside. Make it at home with cotton cloth, triple layer, and the sanitizers buy from a good shop, from a good company, a reliable company. Thank you very much, Mr. Michael, for joining us. And Mr. Bhanu Teja, over to you for further program.
Got it. Yeah, thank you, Devendra, and thank you, Michael, for the great presentation. That was really good. Well, to that point, I can say this: change is incremental. So the fact that we are even arranging these kind of webinars is a good step forward. So I think we are taking one step at a time, and that's good. And at least we are seeing some progress to a better normalcy, I would say. Well, yeah, back to me. I would like to talk about two concepts here. So the one concept which I wish I knew when I was a student, and the other one is a framework that I wish I knew as a student as well. Like, it really helped me throughout my career. So give me a minute, I'll share my screen and talk about it. I'm sorry. So my presentation. So the Google Meet is not allowing me to share this. Give me a second. Let me figure this out. Oh. Oh, I think it worked. Guys, can you see what I'm sharing here?
Yep,
Yes.
you got it.
Oh, I'm glad. Sorry for the delay. So, all right, guys, what you're seeing here is a presentation. So it's a mind map, which I wish I knew this concept before. So, but I would like to, the concept I want to talk about right now is solopreneurship. We all are familiar with entrepreneurship, but not really about solopreneurship. I just want to talk about it and get people familiar with the concept, because I think it's the first step that we need to take as a students to get a broader perspective of how the real world works, how the professional world works, I would say. So what is solopreneurship, and how is it different from entrepreneurship? So, well, I would like to say solopreneurship is where you do start something, you start hustling for something that you're really good at as an individual, not as a student, not as a team. Well, being an entrepreneur means building something from scratch and being in the mindset of developing it into a company later in the future. But in that case, solopreneurship is more like self-employment, I would say. So. Yeah, what is it exactly? So how do we define that? So for any student, we gotta encourage them to understand their skills, their knowledge, and where they're good at, and they also need to have a perspective of what makes the market wants their skills. How do they pivot their skills and knowledge so that market wants it? So that's what is called the sweet spot, and it's called the self-employment, as known as solopreneurship. Well, the next thing is I would like to differentiate it from entrepreneurship. I think this picture does it best. So solopreneur is a guy who runs to the customers and eliminating the traditional employer. We as an employees, well, the typical ambition of an Indian student, I would say, is just completing their degree or engineering and get a job, right? And it doesn't even matter how much is he earning. Is it even enough? We don't even care. It's get a job. I don't think it's too ambitious for a student. So we need to present them a whole lot of colorful options they can pursue. But yeah, so that's where solopreneurship comes in. So while they're studying, while they're even students, they need to be encouraged to start pursuing their skills, their passion, and start pursuing customers, start reaching out to customers who wants to buy their skills or something they're good at. And simply put, we can call these entrepreneurs as like problem solvers for hire. And yeah, the reason why I would encourage people teachers to introduce this concept to students in India is because just getting a job might not be enough. So millennials, the youth these days, and the data says the wealth is going down and their personal income is just too low. And as a result, debt increases, poverty increases, and employment increases. To the point is not that we don't even go out of the box. We don't even think out of the box. And as a student, I did engineering, and I'm even motivated, or I'm not pursue any innovative thing or start something like that. I'm like, just write an exam and go to your job. Well, it's not innovative enough. So, well, with that mindset, and this is what's happening. Income, cost of living increases by year, and wages stays the same, salaries are the same, and cost of living just increases. Well, then this only results in increased poverty, right? Well, I think this sums it up, and this is why solopreneurship is really important. And well, how do we model it? How do they model it? And yeah, let's say a student has a skill, and how do we encourage them to pursue solopreneurship and start getting into the market, introduce that kind of innovative thinking in the students? Well, we can say that we should encourage them to do something they really love doing. Well, in that case, if they really love doing it, then they don't feel like working it. They feel like relaxing by doing it. And one more thing to consider, is it scalable? Well, if the student is doing it for one, can they do it for 100? So if doing it for one is just as easier as doing it for 100, I think it's definitely pursuable. Well, is it repeatable? Well, in that term, I would say repeatable is if they're doing just one document. For example, I was a business strategy consultant. Well, it's kind of solopreneur work that I did. So, well, I did develop a framework, and that framework can be used to other clients as well. So if something that is repeatable or usable for all different clients, then it's definitely pursuable. And as teachers, you need to encourage the students to get into this kind of mindset and mentality, and try to motivate them to make something that is desirable by the customers. Well, one more thing, the next step would be testing it. So let's say they are good at developing a business strategy document. The first thing they would do is test it. Well, I would say business strategy document is too high level. Let's say they're making some Indian food, let's say biryani. So if they want to sell biryani, that's great. They love doing it. So they should test it. Start with their family and cook it. Like make your family or friends eat it. Well, if they want more of it, then if they want more of it, then perfect it. Know the reason why, and then perfect it. If they don't want more, well, they don't like your biryani, then you gotta optimize it, try to change the spices or something, then start again, test it with your family, and iterate it, and try to perfect it. And mistakes, well, this is something that really discourages students, I would say. Well, if students are stumble upon these mistakes, well, they get discouraged. So that should not happen. So mistakes are good. Well, if they are doing mistakes, then that is good. That is the right way of doing it. But if they're not doing any mistakes, then there's something wrong with them. Well, that's it. Well, after that, I would say the next step would be trying to encourage them to get into social media. Well, I know this is something that people really think it's bad, but I don't think it is. Well, everything has positive sides and negative sides. If social media used like in the right way, it can be great tools for people to get knowledge and exposure, and from multiple perspectives. Well, these are the things that I would suggest: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and blog or landing page. But in India, since I've been in India, so I think Instagram and Facebook works great. So student needs to be encouraged to get into these pages, start to get some exposure of how things work. And LinkedIn is one of the great resources as well, but we need to encourage them to get into these platforms. Well, sales. Well, I think, well, it's time to sell, right? And they need to encourage to chase the first dollar. I think just get the first customer, right? So that's where they can make money. They would feel encouraged if someone buys their product. So, well, the first thing they would do is that the student needs to think that no one is going to steal their idea. No one is going to steal their idea because the student is really passionate about it, and no one is going to be that passionate about their idea. So yeah, the next thing is networking. Oh, I cannot stress this enough. Well, in India, well, being a student in India, no one really encouraged me to do networking. Not as a student. Well, no, I don't think it's happening anywhere in India, but a student needs to network a lot. They need to network a lot. Try to meet people before getting into real world, and try to meet people who are well-versed in the company, well-versed in big companies, and how the big companies are working, how the things are running in the world, and all. Students need that exposure. And the next thing would be, people would say, find your customers. Well, I would say find people who know your customers. Well, then the next step would be finding your customers. Well, yeah. And the pricing, I would say, well, at this point, students just go with their instinct and try to price it equally with competitive products. Well, building a team. Well, this is something that's really important for students. I think this is not stressed enough. We don't have team projects or group projects in India enough. So throughout my 4 years of my engineering, I only did like one group project, which is bad. So there needs to be more team projects. They need to understand the team dynamics before even getting into the real world. Yeah. And that's it. That's it about Solopreneurship. Well, the framework I was talking about is mind mapping. Well, people might have heard about it, but I don't know if they're doing it right or wrong. But students need to know this because this is the tool that really, really helped me. Well, these are the basics of mind mapping. This is how I do it, and this is how it worked for me. And yeah, the first thing I would say is mind map is mostly focused around task that needs to be completed. So yeah, so a bigger task, if the student is going to accomplish a bigger task, so that is the task, right? If the student is going to write his final exam, that is final exam. So well, the task needs to be at the center. So then I would say this framework is called the MEES framework. I would say it's mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. So if there is an exam, so let's say if I'm a student who only reads like a week before my exam, well, I am that student actually. So, well, in that case, everything's just got dumped on me. I get really confused with concepts and all. So to eliminate that kind of confusion, I use this framework. This really works. Just break down everything into smaller pieces and cover these pieces one at a time, baby steps. And that's how this framework works. And that's how mind map gets really useful. And it's just the next thing is, what resources do we need to complete this task? And what resources do we have right now? And what resources we don't have, and how do we plan to get them? So in terms of examination, so do I have all the resources? If I'm a student, do I have? I need to write the final exam. So do I have all the resources? Well, if I do, well, I don't have something, so I need to get them, right? So I have all the materials, but I don't know a few concepts. I need to, well, those are the resources that I don't have. Then how do I plan to get them? I plan to get them by reaching out to professors and reaching out to teachers, or reaching out to fellow classmates who can teach me. So that's something. So this framework gives me a plan of how to get all the things that I want to accomplish a task. Well, the final thing would be plans to complete the task. It's just, plan is nothing, but it's just that how do we use our resources to complete the task? And I would always recommend having 3 alternative plans: plan A, plan B, and plan C. Well, you know why we have alternate plans, right? If that one doesn't work, plan B got us covered. If plan B doesn't work, plan C got us covered. Well, this is something that really worked for me, and I would encourage teachers and professors to teach these frameworks and these concepts to the students, because this is something that really worked for me. And I started as an entrepreneur first as a student, and eventually I switched gears to solopreneurship, which really worked. And I got a broader view of how the companies work and what the things I like and the things I want to pursue in my career. So that's how it really worked, and it helped me. And that's it, guys.
Nice mind map, Banu.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Bhanu Teja. This is a very nice presentation you have given, and it is very informative and will benefit a lot of people who want to start their business, who want to manage their business and want to earn money, become self-dependent and not to depend on others. If they follow this rule, I think they will be benefited. It's a very nice presentation. You must have taken a lot of time to prepare such a nice presentation. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences. And this was based on your experience. That is the most important thing, which says that it has to be profitable and is definitely fruitful if somebody applies this. Thank you very much. But something I am reminded of, which may not be relevant to speak here, but when we think of clapping hand, we need two hands. With one hand, we cannot clap. So we need to understand both the sides. What happens? I am talking of India because I am really experiencing so many things with the common people that they are facing. You see, when it comes to government agencies like the bankers, like the electricity department, the water department, maybe any other government department, there government says that because we did not have any income for the last 6 months due to coronavirus, therefore we are imposing this tax, therefore we are imposing this penalty, therefore we are imposing this profit margins, extra costs we are charging more money from you. Like bankers, they said that a PIL was there in the High Court, which is still pending. I am just giving you my opinion that the people said that we did not have any income for the last 6 months. So please give us a moratorium on the EMIs that we have borrowed loan for. And it was allowed also for 6 months. But it said that the interest for the 6 months period you have to pay. Then when they had to reply for this, that why are you charging interest when there was no income? They said because the bankers did not have any income. If they do not charge interest, they will be at loss. I want to ask you, do you think the people, common men, when everything was locked for 6 months, nothing was moving, at that time the common people had some income and that much income that they can pay interest? This is one case. Second case is electricity. Government should have said that 6 months we should not charge any electricity bill from anybody. But it was not done. The same cost has been charged. The same amount has been charged. Late payments have been charged. People have been put to pressures that if you do not pay the money, we'll disconnect your electricity. And same applies everywhere. So the question is, when the government thinks, whether it is Indian government or any other government, does it think that the government doesn't have any income, so they are charging these things? But does the public have any income for the last 6 months? Nobody thinks of that. I am not talking because I did not get the benefit or I did not get the advantage. It's not about me. You can just check from anywhere. People have paid. Second thing, very important thing, COVID-19 definitely is a dangerous disease. I don't disagree with this. But is a heart attack less dangerous? Is a patient with 600 diabetes is less dangerous? These are all equally dangerous. It amounts to life. But what happened? People are roaming even today in big hospitals for their treatment of diabetes, for getting them attended for heart attacks. They are standing on the gate of the hospital and they are shouting that my patient has a heart attack, please attend to it. Oh, no, you are not COVID patient, we will not take you in. This kind of situation is more worse than COVID-19. That's what I want to say. We are concentrating only on COVID. In India, they have established 10,000 bedded hospital for COVID-19. Whereas WHO and all other medical experts across the world are saying that hardly 2.5% is the mortality rate. Hardly 7.5% people need critical care. Hardly 2.5% people need ventilators. And they are creating 10,000 bedded hospital for treatment. In India, they say that 90% people have to home isolate for getting themselves treated at their cost, at their premises, at their property, at their everything. And you are creating such big establishments. And the other day you say that, I think Corona is deteriorating day by day because we have 9,999 beds vacant. It will be vacant, sir. People are home isolated. It will be vacant, sir, because only 10% people need critical care or ventilators. So this must change. This must change. Why that 9,000 beds are not utilized for people who are suffering with high level of diabetes, sugar, high level of heart attack problems, and innumerous other patients. You can't even imagine. I have seen, physically I have gone to the doctors and talked to them. Why are you not treating them? Sir, he's not COVID-19, so we can't take him. This kind of situation is very harmful for the society. I only request, if anybody here can do something on this, please move forward. Because people will not die of COVID-19. People will die more of other diseases. Thank you very much. I wanted to just share this idea. I don't know whether you have liked it or not, whether it was correct or not, because I think Bhanu, Teja, Michael, and Jean will be leaving us because it's night there. I would like a one-line comment from all of you, whether it's the one which I told you is right or wrong.
I can jump in first because I recently had a major surgery at a major hospital here in the United States. I was actually at the Stanford University's medical center. I had an open heart surgery with 10 days of recovery time. It was a 12 or 14-hour surgery, very intensive. While I was in the ICU recovering, they actually only had one room available in the ICU that had the pressurized system required for emergency treatment of a COVID-19 patient who's actually at the rate where they need a ventilator. So it depends, and I think it's different everywhere around the world. I think I have some friends in other countries where it's business as usual. Jean can probably speak on this as well. She's from Taiwan. No cases of COVID. So it's a case-by-case basis, and it's different everywhere in the world. And it's not right that they have 10,000 beds available. They're using a given number of beds for the patients who are not self-isolated, but who are there and need the ventilators, and then they keep the other beds closed unless they're all in close proximity and they're worried about spreading the disease amongst the individuals who are not COVID-19 positive. That would be the only reason I could see why they wouldn't allow other patients to be in the same facilities receiving medical treatment from trained doctors, et cetera. So that's my 2 cents worth, and I think that was a little more than one line. I apologize for that, but hopefully it's useful.
It was really useful, Michael. Regarding the medical...
Yeah, Bhanu, you please carry on.
Sure, yeah, I'll go ahead. So regarding the medical situation, I think India is not doing that good. And I can see that's the reason why we have like 100,000 cases a day, which is really a lot. So I think it generally needs to come up from the people, actually. So we need to start social distancing. And we also need to start wearing masks, as you said, Mr. Devendra. I don't think many people are doing that right now. So that's my honest opinion about how India is dealing with this COVID situation. So I think it needs to come from us, basically. And regarding how we're going to pay the bills, so I think government is like imposing, is not taking that much care or how to like subsidize these prices or bills that we are getting. So that needs to be taken care of. And regarding how people are going to earn money in these days, so that's the reason why I came up with this Solopreneurship concept. So I was a student when I would tell you this example. So I was a student. I was doing this entrepreneurship. I started a project. It didn't work out. So well, I did want some money on my own to just boost this company, or for my personal reasons. So that's why I jumped onto social media. I reached out to people and companies over like across the world. Like I got a client from Canada. I was in India, so it's just a tool. We are just connected throughout the world with social media, so we gotta make use of it, and we just don't realize the tools that are at our disposal. If we consider all the tools, and if we are able to teach ourselves these tools and how to use them in the right way, I think we'll have a lot more opportunities than what we have right now currently. And that's my opinion, and it's something that we need to teach the next generation as well, because it's something that I was not taught when I was a student.
Yeah, thank you very much for agreeing to what I said. And Jean, can I have your comment also? After that, I will speak only 30 seconds. I need to say something before I want your comment.
I'm thinking like in Taiwan, the most important stuff is that the citizens understand the importance of doing social distancing and having the mask. And the government are the thing they are doing well is that they educate the citizens that they how do I say they passes the right informations and try to exclude other like fake news to make the citizens calm, but also understand the importance, so they will seriously taking seriously about this topic. I think this is the key. Like, I'm now in the US, I found that a lot of people around us, they are not very cautious about this because they think that doesn't affect their lives. But in fact, even though they it doesn't affect themselves, but it can affect to other people like the elders or those like in critical situations people. Yeah, so I think like education might be the important part in this topic. Yeah, that's the thing that government need to do other than giving financial supports and some facilities. That education is the root. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, Jean, Michael, and Bhanu Teja, I have another thing, just closing remarks about this discussion. That you see, everybody knows that education is such a thing that needs physical contacts and physical presence of a student. But still, it can be carried out from home. The teachers can teach from home. The students can take education from home at this grave situation of coronavirus. But medical treatment is very, very difficult to be provided by sitting at home and the patient sitting at home. But still, what are we doing? We have introduced telemedicine. Okay, not bad. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. But now it is being commercialized in India. Nobody has any monitoring. Nobody has any control over it. There is no regulator to see what is happening. The doctors are minting money just for a phone call of 3 minutes. They are charging 10,000, 15,000, 16,000 rupees. There are test facilities available across the country, but the laboratories are charging huge amount of money just to test. Whereas these patients should be allowed to go in a separate hospital, at least if you do not want to take them in the same hospital as of COVID patients. They should identify a separate hospital for all other patients and say that you go and get treatment if you are negative. But it's not being done. You are saying we have converted all the hospitals as COVID hospitals. Education can be, and people are doing it also virtually, they are doing it online. But why do you send the students in the classroom or appearing in the exam? Nobody is there to open their mouth and say that this is a very risky thing you are doing. Nobody wants to say that by going to the colleges and schools and attending in the crowd, we will be put at risk. And that is why the corona numbers are day by day increasing at a very fast pace in India. So we need to actually analyze that is it the medical facility that should be provided online through telemedicine, or is it the education which is simpler to provide to home, working from home and sitting at home? We are not able to identify which is of more importance online and which has to go physical in nature. We are not analyzing, and we are not identifying, and we are not deciding on what to do. So we are doing whatever we want. That is wrong, and that is how this number is increasing day by day. This is my thing I wanted to say. Most important thing in anything, Mr. Bhanuteja, you have explained your product very well, your ideas very well, but I want to say one thing: everything fails if there are three things missing. Number one, in any project, you need to know what are the challenges you are going to face. In any project, before launching it, if you do not know and you do not have the preparedness of facing those challenges, your project will fail. If you do not have a masterpiece of management of all these problems and challenges, your project will fail. Whatever you make, it will fail. And the same happened in all countries where the coronavirus increased, because they were not prepared to face the challenges, and they did not have proper management facilities to protect the people of their country with this. Though they have experienced this in the Spanish flu time, it was more dangerous than this. It was more deadly than this virus. But anyway, what I can say is, all of you sitting here must be prepared for eventualities. You never know what comes when. Because everything, what is available to you is now. Past is gone. You cannot bring it back. Learn from the past. Do it for the present. But don't sit looking at the future. You have to do it now. That's all. This is my opinion. And if somebody can enlighten us on this, on these grounds about education and other things, I would be grateful. Thank you very much, Jean, Michael, and Bhanuteja. Any you want to say, please continue, and then we'll shift to the other program.
Thank you all very much for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Have a great morning.
Good morning, guys. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bhanuteja. I would like to say something about your presentation. You have wonderfully weaved two concepts in your presentation. One is about mind mapping, and the other thing is about entrepreneurship. And we are happy to inform you that you shared your experience about your college days. Now the scenario is a little bit changing, and in degree colleges also, government is taking initiatives to introduce many market-oriented courses, and especially we, under the guidance of our dynamic principal, ma'am, we got permission to conduct vocational courses also, in which the thing what you are talking about, the skill concept component is very high when compared to theory. In the previous degrees, normally we used to have a lot of theory, 70% is theory and 30% is practical. So the students couldn't get the domain expertization. But now the scenario is changed with the vocational courses and even market-oriented courses, where we are moving towards domain expertization by providing 70% of skill-oriented knowledge and 30% theory. Thank you, Michael and Jean, for giving very enriching presentations. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Aruna. I'm very happy. I'm more than happy to hear what you said, and I'm happy that you're taking initiatives. And I'm just jealous that I didn't get those things, but I would definitely like to be a student in your college now. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your effort in doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you very much, Michael, Jean, and Bhanuteja. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences and your presentation and work here at this platform. It was really nice having you on this platform. And we hope that in future also, we'll get this kind of support from you when we organize webinars of this type. Thank you very much. I'm really grateful to all of you. Thank you. And now,
You're welcome. Thanks for having us. Bye-bye.
yeah, thank
And
you.
Banu, thank
Bye.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Goodbye.
Bye. And now we move on to the next program, and I would like to inform all of you that we have a very honorable guest here, the Vice Chancellor of Andhra University, Mr. Prasad Reddy. And I welcome you, sir, on this platform today in this webinar. Thank you very much for sparing your precious time and coming here on this webinar. I am really grateful to you. And I would like to now call upon Dr. Shobha Rani.
Yes, sir.
I would like to now call upon Dr. Shobha Rani, one of the most dynamic principals I have ever met. I have seen her working with the students so friendly that I have never seen any other principal doing it like that. The principal has been conducting webinars and seminars in her college almost every month. When it was a non-coronavirus period, then she used to organize seminars, international and national seminars, workshops on many issues. And we had a lot of opportunity to join hands with Dr. Shobha Rani and her college. Today, in the coronavirus period also, by her nature, she has not been sitting quiet and she doesn't want to sit at home. I have been watching that she doesn't sit at home and she will always go to the college even during the holidays. And I'm happy that last 4 months, she has been continuously involved in organizing webinars, international and national webinars and workshops. I remember only a few days back, she had a 9 days Hindi workshop, international workshop, 9 days continuously. I know it because my channel has covered live and has had a broadcast on the YouTube for 9 days and continuously for 6 hours a day. Is not an easy job, is not something an ordinary person can think. So I can say she is not an ordinary principal. And if I can, before ma'am, you can introduce Dr. P.V. Prasad Reddy, the Vice Chancellor of Andhra University. I would like to give you a big clap, ma'am, for your initiatives that you are taking. Thank you very much. And please carry on. And if you can introduce Dr. Prasad Reddy, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Andhra University, I would be grateful. Thank you. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Srivastava ji, for your positive words about me, sir. Thank you. And coming to today's Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. B.C. Nirmal, former Vice Chancellor, National Law University. Most respected guest of honor, Dr. P.V. G.D. Prasad Reddy Garu, Vice Chancellor, Andhra University. Sri DN Srivastava ji, Founder and Chairperson Tejasvi, Astitva Foundation, New Delhi. Most valued invited speakers, delegates, and my dear participants, a very pleasant morning to all. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all for this 3 days international web seminar, Future Education and Career COVID Aftermath. And it's my honor to welcome our Vice Chancellor, Sir, Dr. P.V.G.D. Prasad Reddy Garu, who have been a constant support for us. Sir, you have given us a lot of lot of encouragement in various academic affairs and took many initiatives for the benefit of the student. Sir has vast experience in higher education, and we are fortunate enough to have Dr. PVGD Prasad Reddy garu with us today to enrich us with his valuable experiences on the future education and career, COVID aftermath. And before that, I requested Mrs. D. Arunapadma formally introduce our Vice Chancellor, sir. Over to Arunapadma.
Thank you, ma'am. A very good morning to all the delegates and eminent speakers present in this webinar. It's my proud privilege and honor to introduce Professor PVGD Prasad Reddy garu, Vice Chancellor, Andhra University. Professor PVGD Prasad Reddy is a passionate teacher, an expert in the field of computer science and information technology, and an academic administrator for over 3 decades. He began his academic career as an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Systems Engineering, Andhra University, in May 1987, rising to become a senior professor in Andhra University. He has held the positions of Vice Chancellor, Rector, Registrar, Head of the Department, and numerous other administrative positions in the university. He had been on committees of several public institutions under assignment of great sensitivity and responsibility. Professor Prasad Reddy, as an inspiring teacher and mentor of research over the past 32 years of service with Andhra University, has guided 42 PhDs. Several of the research contributions under his supervision have received accolades and best paper awards at international and national level. He published more than 195 research papers, of which a majority are in impact journals. He is one among the cited researchers in the field of information technology and data sciences with H index of 16 and I-10 index of 28. He has handled various IT consultancy works for the government organizations and other clients. Professor Prasad Reddy has received, among other honors, Best Teacher Award from Government of Andhra Pradesh in the combined state during the year 2011 for his contributions. All through his career, he is identified for successful contribution as a teacher in the field of information technology and as an academic administrator at various capacities, while maintaining a high level of output in terms of quality and quantity. Sir, we are very lucky enough to have you. Please enrich us with your valuable experiences. May I request, sir, Professor PVGD Prasad Reddy, sir.
So good morning, one and all.
So, namaste, sir.
Is my voice audible? I see. Okay,
Yes,
an
sir.
echo
It is
in my
audible, sir.
voice.
It is audible. It is audible, sir.
Yeah, very good morning, Dr. Sobaranimera.
Morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
It gives me immense pleasure to be a part of. Good morning, and I'm really happy to be a part of this international webinar. For which, you are the chairperson, and I just heard, Srivastava ji also talking good things about you, and I fully agree with his views. And, the topic, that you have chosen, future education and career, COVID aftermath. Yes, it's a wonderful topic, and I understand that Professor Nirmal, former Vice Chancellor of NALSER, is one of the guests over here, and let me extend a very warm welcome to all the other speakers and delegates to this wonderful international webinar. And Andhra University is one of the state universities, and we have got about 350 affiliated colleges, and this university was established in the year 1926. So it's almost 95 years, 95 years, university. And in the last 95 years, this particular university, in fact, has faced, troubles 2 times. the senior professors, they tell me that it was in the year 1931, Andhra University had its, biggest trouble in the form of Second World War. And during that time, the university closed down all its operations for about 5 years. And after a gap of another 60 years, again, this is because of COVID pandemic, the university had to shut down its operations for almost 45 days. So anyway, COVID-19, in a way, it has emerged as one of the biggest challenges that the world has faced in the past many decades. And several functions of everyday life have taken a hit. And of course, education is one of them. Education institutions being very crowded places where, social distancing is really difficult, and colleges and schools were almost, the first to be shut down. And now, maybe I think a couple of weeks time from now onwards, we will have to reopen, the institutions. And there are many challenges. Challenges in the sense, can classrooms remain as congested as they are normally? How can they be decongested, considering the poor educational infrastructure, not only in India, but across the world? And the second biggest challenge today is what about, activities like transportation? It could be public transportation or a private transportation. And suppose, in case if you start face-to-face classes by inviting students onto the campus, and especially, living in the hostel, dining in the messes, and how to organize, all these things, and how to probably, I think, organize sports and extracurricular activities. This is a big challenge, in fact. And the third challenge, what I see as a Vice Chancellor is, what will be the impact on laboratories, especially in science streams? And how do you organize examinations in case if, you are mandated to organize, examinations using, paper and pen mode? It's really a difficult task to manage the various examination centers. Of course, with the support of all my affiliated college principals, I am doing that, taking, some kind of, risk. So these are, some of the problems that we see, especially, in this COVID pandemic and after pandemic, how to organize these things. It's a big challenge. It's an issue. And when it comes to teaching, there is a sudden shift from the normal classroom, not only in India, but in many parts of the globe, because everybody is trying to adopt online kind of learning. And whether this kind of online learning is continued to persist post-pandemic, and how such a shift would impact the worldwide educational market. This is one very, very important thing that probably I think all the delegates will have to discuss, because many online platforms are offering free access to their services. And while many people believe that the unplanned and rapid move to online learning with absolutely no training and insufficient bandwidth, little preparation, all of these things will result in some kind of a poor user experience that is not really conducive to sustained growth. But of course, at the same time, there are others who believe that in the times to come, a new hybrid model of education will emerge with some significant benefits. But I believe that some kind of integration of information technology in education will be further accelerated. And the online education will eventually become an integral component of higher education. But one problem, what I found, these days, some of the students, especially from rural areas and, hilly terrain areas, without reliable internet access or technology, they are struggling to participate in this digital learning. And this gap, in fact, is seen across countries and between, especially income brackets within the countries. So this is one issue probably I think to be addressed. And of course, government of Andhra Pradesh has been doing a lot to address this particular issue. And we are happy about, the involvement of the government and the support that's been extended, especially by the Andhra Pradesh state government under the dynamic leadership of, the new chief minister, a very young chief minister by name Y.S. Jaganmohan Reddy garu. In fact, the participants, the delegates, should understand that in the state of Andhra Pradesh, the aim of, the chief minister is to see to it that by 2025, the gross educational GER ratio from the current rate of 22%, it should go up to 50%. So that's why he has introduced very innovative schemes such as a Vidya Divana scheme, where there is a full fees reimbursement for all the students who want to pursue higher education. So the total fees is paid by the government, and the students are also paid hostel fees by the government itself. A lot of encouragement, and in fact Srivastava ji was talking about I think not Srivastava ji, one of the delegates was talking about the telemedicine and the cost that is being involved in telemedicine. Today the medical support is also free, especially in the state of Andhra Pradesh. As such, today morning I was reading an article about the R ratio, and they say that the worldwide as on today the R ratio is more than 1. In India the R ratio is 0.98, whereas in Andhra Pradesh the R ratio, that means how the COVID is going to spread from one person to another person, looking at the density and all, is the lowest in India, and it is 0.81. Such kind of measures were in fact taken up by the government. And when it comes back to the topic of our discussion, in just the past few months, what I have seen, first time, this is almost the first time, because I am there in the field of education for the last 34 years. It is for the first time various stakeholders, the governments, the publishers, educational professionals, and technology providers, and telecom network operators. All these people, in fact, they are coming together to utilize digital platforms as a solution to the crisis. And in fact, from the Microsoft and Google in the US, Samsung in Korea, and Alibaba in China, corporations, of big corporations are awakening to this strategic imperative of an educated populace. While some initiatives to date have been limited in scope and also relatively isolated, the pandemic could pave the way for much larger scale cross-industry coalitions to be formed around a common educational goal. So when it comes to career, the people who probably embrace digital technology definitely will have a very, very good career. And I have seen, in fact, the placements that are happening on the campus. Absolutely, there is no decline, in the placements. I have seen the last year placement ratio on Andhra University campus. It was, 94% last year, and this year also it almost touched 94%. So absolutely, there is no change, when it comes to placements or career. But only thing is that people are somewhat cautious, while probably I think recruiting, and probably I think some kind of delay also could be there before getting their offer letters and start their work process. And most of the students, they have their given training to work from home. This is one big observation, what we have seen on the campus. And anyway, let me once again congratulate Sober Annie, because with their support, in fact, a week back we have commenced paper mode examinations, first of its kind in Andhra Pradesh. And our final year degree students, our strength is about 60,000 final year degree students. And today is their last but one examination. They have 6 examinations to be written. Already 5 examinations are over. And we are maintaining social distancing. We are taking all kind of precautions. And students and parents are also giving full support. We made all the arrangements to conduct the examinations. With tomorrow, in fact, we are going to finish all our examination in normal pen and paper mode, not just online mode. This is the kind of support I am getting from all the colleges, especially the government colleges. And not only this, Srivastava ji made a mention. I know, the principals, especially like Dr. Subbarani madam, they are organizing webinars. They are also, giving training to all the teachers, like how to provide, teaching using online modes. Today, teaching on online, it may not be difficult for teachers, who are teaching mathematics or physics kind of subjects or electronics. But when it comes to language trainers and, arts, teachers, they are not really well versed with making use of digital tools and all. But, madam, she has provided training, by using some services from Andhra University. And today, in a way, the state of Andhra Pradesh is totally ready, in fact, not only to organize face-to-face classes, but also make use of digital technology whenever it is required. So in a way, the total state is prepared to organize classwork, and worldwide people are saying that they have lost about 4 or 5 months. But from my point of Andhra University, I see that there is no loss happened. We have gained a lot. We have gained how to learn. Probably I think in spite of this pandemic, or future also probably I think we may get some pandemics of this sort. In a way, this has cautioned each one of us, how to get ready in case if a pandemic of this sort happened, how to probably I think address the needs, and how to probably I think manage the disasters and continue our work. So let me once again thank the Tejasvi Foundation for taking up an initiative to organize a webinar on future of education and career. I hope and believe that the delegates probably I think would continue to benefit from this particular organization of webinar. Thank you so much for giving a chance to me to be in the midst of all of you and present my own views. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. On this occasion, I convey my heartfelt thanks to our distinguished Vice Chancellor, sir, Dr. PVJD Prasad Reddy garu, for taking his precious time out and consenting to address us. Sir, no doubt, sir, all affiliated colleges are wings of Andhra University, and being the Vice Chancellor of AU, you are protecting them so well. Since ours is a NAC-going college, sir, this year, you are supporting us a lot, and you have been a true inspiration for all of us. And indeed, your guidance brought a vibrant momentum in this 3 days international webinar, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for attending, sir, for accepting our invitation and enlightening our students and staff. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prasad Rao. We are grateful to you that you have spared such precious time out of the panic and the disastrous situation of the COVID-19 right now that we are facing, and you have still taken out your time and spared such precious moments to share your experiences and thoughts in this webinar. We are really grateful to you. Sir, I have a small question. Can I ask you if you permit me? Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I hear. Okay, Srivastava.
Of course, I keep visiting Vishakhapatnam. And next time I will definitely come and meet you also. But in the past so many months and years when I have been working on seminars, workshops, and webinars, actually the education is the all-round development of mind and body that everybody agrees also, and everybody has that in mind. But what I have experienced is that most of the people are joining the seminars and webinars with half-heartedly they are joining, just because it is a pressure from either the UGC or some other agency that if you do not attend, your API score will decrease, your this thing will come, that thing will come. But I have seen very few number of people who join the webinars and seminars with a motive to understand things from others, to share their knowledge and experience, and to come to a fair conclusion on every aspects of problems that education sector is facing. What could you think the reason could be behind it? Because in the last webinar also, I have seen so many people, they are simply sending messages to me, sir, my certificate, sir, my certificate, sir, my certificate. Nothing more than that. There was no other question. I'm being very frank and very straightforward to you, because see, I am working on the ground realities, and I have left my home, I have left my family, and I am only dedicated to the nation, and I am working on development of this nation in true sense. What I want is, if there is any problem, we should come across together and fight it out. This is not the way if the teachers now, I will give you one more example, sir, one more scene, that the teachers working in the college, although they reach the position of a professor, but they are not designated professors. They are only associate professors. When I approached the UGC, they said that because those colleges do not have infrastructure, those colleges do not have research facilities, and therefore the professor is unable to carry out their research work in proper manner, and therefore they are not knowledgeable, so we will not designate them as a professor. Which means if the college doesn't have the infrastructure and research facilities, if the teacher is not developed properly, what are we justifying to the students? Is a very hard hitting fact, and you can appreciate, sir, what I am saying. Any comments on this, sir?
Srivastava ji, I fully agree with you to some extent, because it all depends upon individual, whether his entry into teaching is by chance or by choice. And before getting into the depth of your question, my own experience, my own observation, because as a faculty of engineering college, I in fact got an opportunity to travel across countries, and especially in India also, to attend to various seminars, or maybe I think webinars, especially the last 6-7 months, the webinars. Prior to that, seminars or workshops organized at IITs or NITs, premier institutions, and to some extent Indian School of Business and all. I see a different culture, but institutions of national importance, it could be NITs, IITs, IIScs, or even many universities abroad. The culture of teachers, is totally different over there. And the question, that we were discussing about is not seen over there. So I find teachers who are very, very serious there, when it is a seminar, means, morning 10 o'clock, if the seminar had to start, exactly at 10 starts. And if it has to end at 5 o'clock, it ends at 5 o'clock. You see that kind of a seriousness, deliberations, and all these things. Whereas, you don't find that, in some places. So I was in fact, questioning myself, why, what is the reason? The reason is, whether, your entry into that profession is by chance or by choice. This is one of the answers what I got from my own, conscience. Second thing is that, how the recruitment is happening when it comes to the normal, state universities or, at various places. As long as, the recruitment process itself is made very, very tough. That means, you need to have a mechanism to analyze whether somebody is really going to be serious throughout his career, and somebody is really wants to upgrade his skill set, on a continuous basis. You require some kind of, a metric to determine, because it may be difficult, but you need to have metrics, especially, for new entries, to determine whether, this person is really going to be worthy to the field of teaching or not. This has to be established. Something like, a UPSC examination where, how today, the IAS officers are being selected, some kind of a very strict examination followed by a very strict interview is required. And when it comes to, analyzing a person's worth, I think, you require a stronger mechanism. Without which, people always look for certificates. If you say that, you require, some 10 certificates or 5 certificates for your next level of promotion, definitely there are people, who want to probably look only for certificates, because that seriousness is not there. So that means in some way you have to establish this kind of a seriousness. Now I have seen, government of Andhra Pradesh is contemplating with that kind of a seriousness, because education is made almost free. They want to put, some kind of video cams also in the classrooms. So that seriousness, maybe I think not so easy to have all these things, but at least, somewhere somebody has to start. So to some extent, it is difficult, because, it is also the individual trait, the personality. Every teacher should be given training, almost every year. And every teacher, okay, should also be asked to undergo a test by a psychologist, because what is going wrong, okay, with him. These things are important. Why, my question to you is that why this problem is not there in deemed universities or in private universities or in private colleges, where the seriousness is there, whereas the seriousness is somewhat missing only in the government segment. Okay, this is also a very important observation. So that means, especially with the government, some kind of, that laziness, okay, is always there, with all of us. And probably I think times to come, people would change. And once you change, the entry level, test, the entry level mechanism, and probably I think in a continuous manner, you induce that inspiration. In the long run, probably I think we will have serious impacts if, like, as you said, people are not really serious about attending seminars. People are not really serious about, upgrading their skill set. Both parts are there. I have experienced, I have seen, several teachers who are really serious in their career, who wants to upgrade their skill set, who are on a continuous 24/7 base, motivating the students, motivating the young generation. At the same time, I have also, seen, like what you mentioned with some teachers. These two things are definitely going to be there. And let's see, okay, people like all of us should continuously organize webinars and continuously try to motivate. If we can change, at least 3 or 4%, okay, from one, okay, part of to the other part, where, those who are not interested, if some 2 or 3% are getting converted into the interest, okay, segment, probably I think we have achieved the result.
It would be really nice to continue this discussion with you, but I would not like to prolong this and like to cut short by just responding to your 2 points. One is that you said that it's found more in government sector. Yes, sir, it is found more in government sector because there is no monitoring. There is no monitoring system by way of which somebody can monitor what is actually happening. But it is happening in the private sector also, because private sectors have become total commercial agencies. They are no more education sectors. I don't consider them at all, because they are only prepared to minting money. Second thing you pointed out, by chance or by choice. It is neither by chance nor by choice. It is a forced, because nobody is getting an employment. An engineer wants to take up as an engineer, but because he's unable to succeed there, and in the midway he got into a PPSC exam and he got his selection, so he is joined as a teacher because he has nothing else to do and he has to feed his stomach and his family. So he is forced, neither by choice nor by chance. Anyway, thank you very much, sir, for responding to my questions. I thought I will ask you something, and being
Yes,
at such an important chairs, you are sitting at such an important chair that you can, if you want, sir, you can make miracles and changes in your own vicinity, in your own connections, in the affiliated colleges and universities under your control. And I would request you to please take it seriously, because this is a very serious matter. It is not only affecting the teachers, it is actually affecting our children and the future of this country. And I will, with my folded hands, sir, request you, please take this issue very seriously. Thank you very much for joining me. Dr. Shobha, you want to say something?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Srivastava, and thank you, sir. Sir, this situation, COVID-19 situation, nobody expected, sir, because the sudden development will not come in any situation, sir. It may be technology, it may be anything, but this situation created us to move on to the digital world, sir. And with the initiatives, great initiatives of government, central government as well as the state government, in only government colleges, sir, because of the RUSA money, we are maintaining digital and virtual classrooms. So we are teaching digital classes as well as virtual classes and online classes, just because of government has provided these equipment before COVID situation only, sir. So we have never expected this situation, but before that only we have had all digital and virtual equipment in government colleges. So we are far more better than private colleges, sir. So, but some deficiencies will be there, but we shall overcome all those things by one day, sir. So step by step we will increase, sir, and we are moving towards the digital one, and that is more. It will be more benefited to the students, sir. Students and better next generation and continuation generation, sir. And thank you, sir. Always, sir, we should not see in a negative way towards government, sir. Government is providing a lot to everybody, not only for government colleges, but each and every student. They're looking in that way, but sudden development will not come, sir, in a day or 1 day or 2 days. So we'll expect that, and the central government is also going to take a very positive initiative to for the networking. Network development, that is fiber network, I think, sir, in agency areas. But it will come, sir, step by step. The development will come, and we will expect that, and we shall overcome all these things, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Srivastava. And
I would like to respond two things before sir will leave from here. You said two things. One is that we were not. It is sudden outbreak of coronavirus. I am not saying government did nothing.
No, sir.
That's not my idea. That's not my idea. I am not saying government did nothing. I am not pointing out that government should have done this or should have done that. Whatever I speak, I am a person who will show you a black spot if there is on your shirt. So you should be very happy that this man is showing that my shirt is dirty and I should clean it. So I am waking up the government also. I am a whistleblower and I need to wake up the government if they are sleeping. So I am showing them that, look, mister, you had the information that Spanish flu was here long back and it was more deadly than the coronavirus. Coronavirus, only 2.5% mortality rate. So where is the preparedness? Were you prepared to manage this kind of situation, the challenges that COVID-19 is giving? Were you prepared? No. So you should be prepared for the future at least. This kind of health emergencies can come because you do not know what is the future going to give you. You know only now because past has already gone. You cannot bring it back. You know only now. So what we have to do? We have to think about the challenges that might come in future. Think about how we should make ourselves prepared to face those challenges and how we could manage the worst situation. If we are there, nothing of any sort can happen to our country. I can give you a challenge on this. Number two, you said we will overcome. Definitely, Indians are so strong. We will overcome everything. There is no way out that we will not overcome. But situations could have been much, much far better than what you are visualizing today. If we were prepared. So I am only requesting all of you. I am not pointing out that you did wrong. Some action should be taken on you. I am not talking of those things. I am only saying that please be prepared. If you come out of your house, please be prepared for everything. Don't keep your gate of the vehicle open so that you will fall. You be prepared for the worst. So keep your gate tightly fixed. Don't cross the red light because you know you might meet an accident. So be prepared and be alert. That is what is required to achieve success in your life. This is what I mean to say. I am not talking of any punishments to anybody. I am not talking of taking you to the court. I am not talking of giving a judgment that this was wrong, this was right. I am saying that your shirt is dirty, please clean it. Am I a bad man, sir? You are sitting here. Am I telling something wrong to you?
It is ours, not your, our. It is
I am
our.
answer because I am working for the nation 24/7, moving to a corrupt-free and independent society where our girls are also. In our society, what I am dreaming, the girls should also be free to roam at 10 o'clock at night. Why should our leaders come and say, "Arey, ye to ladki thi, why she should go in night time? She should sit at home. Why the boys can go and the girls cannot go? Because this country doesn't belong to the girls." Sorry, sir. I am being very harsh, being very straightforward, but I am telling you the truth, the ground reality. If it is addressed, everything will be okay.
Sir, our vice chancellor is very, very positive minded, sir. Thank you.
Srivastava ji to Andhra Pradesh. He has to spend 2-3 days time in Andhra Pradesh. So many good things are happening on Andhra Pradesh.
Yes,
Probably he has to probably look at Andhra Pradesh.
yes, sir. He is speaking from Delhi.
See to it, the model of Andhra Pradesh should be replicated across the country, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Whatever
sir.
that he has been trying. Okay, all these things are being implemented in Andhra Pradesh.
Yes, sir.
Last 1.5 years, all these things are happening. And next visit, please kindly bring Srivastava ji to my room. We'll have a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much. I have got another meeting to go.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
My idea was not to hurt anybody. I'm sorry if somebody is hurt. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Namaste, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right? Okay.
Thank you, Namaste, sir. Prasad, sir. Oh boy, sir, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Shobarani, is there anyone else who wants to speak? You want to speak something, you can please go ahead. So we'll start the next phase of the program.
With both of us speaking, sir, it will become a debate. So next we'll continue our program, sir.
So now we move on to the next session of the program, and I would like our moderator, Ruchika, to carry on the program. Ruchika, could you please start with?
Absolutely. Am I audible?
Yeah. Yeah, Ruchika, you're audible.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 3 days international webinar, Future Education and Career COVID Aftermath, organized by Vishakha Government Degree College, Visakhapatnam, India, in collaboration with Tejasvi Astitva Foundation, which is a New Delhi-based non-government organization that fights for just and rights. I am so pleased and thankful to all of you that you have taken time out from your busy schedules to join us for this webinar today. My name is Ruchika Srivastava. I am an engineer and a YouTube content creator. I make videos about personal growth, productivity, and lifestyle design, along with a few comedy videos here and there, because we all know that laughter is very important. It's, after all, the best medicine, right? Well, I'm going to be your host for the 3 days of this webinar, and along with me, I have two absolutely lovely ladies with me who are going to help me with this webinar. So I'm going to quickly introduce you to them. I have Hema and Anuya with me as my co-hosts. So, hi Anuya, can you please unmute yourself and say hi to everyone?
Hello everyone, good morning to everyone. This is T. Anuya Phillips, studying 3rd year BCom in SKR College for Women, Raj Mahendravaram, Andhra Pradesh. I feel very lucky to be a part of this event. I thank Dr. DN Srivastava sir for giving me this opportunity. This makes a gateway to prove myself. I thank Srivastava sir for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Anuya. I'm really thankful that you agreed to help me out today. And next we have Hema. Hema, could you please unmute and say hi to everyone?
Yeah, thank you, Ruchika. Is my voice audible?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, thank you, Ruchika, for giving me this opportunity. And a very good morning to one and all. I'm Hemanta from Rajamahendravaram, Andhra Pradesh, India. And I'm a graduate of BBA and BCom and pursuing CA course. And I deem it as my great honor and privilege to extend heartiest and warm welcome to you all for the prestigious international webinar COVID Aftermath. At the outset, I'm immensely happy to associate myself on this wonderful occasion to introduce some eminent resource persons of today's session. I am grateful to Sri DN Srivastava sir for this opportunity. Now, I hope webinars are a shimmering snowflake that means shine in a unique ways. where the audience is more targeted, more engaged, and ready to take action. And I believe after enlightenment by highly knowledgeable speakers, this webinar also will capture end people's thoughts and strategy during this period, visualizing the future career they would like to build after the coronavirus fades away. Because the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic spread rapidly across nations and about 1.5 billion students globally remain at home. There is an end to every nightmare, and this is also shall end soon. Let us get enlightened in these 3 days with the experience of intellectuals invited through their thoughts and healthy discussions and interaction with them. Over to Ruchita. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Hema. That was lovely. And thank you so much for agreeing to help me out and make things easier for me. Now, before we get started with the webinar, I just wanted to do a little housekeeping and tell you how you can talk to us during this webinar. First and foremost, please keep your mic on mute at all times. Please keep your videos on, as we want this webinar to be as realistic as possible. And this webinar is going to be telecast live on our channel partner, the DN News YouTube channel. Please keep your phone in a horizontal position at all times instead of keeping it in a vertical position. Turn off your video if you want to eat something, or if you are going something, or if you want to drink something, and then please turn your video cameras back on. We will be taking a 5-minute short break often during the webinar, because we all understand how tiring it can be to sit in front of the camera for an extended period of time. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to stretch your legs out, and please do not end the call during those mini breaks. Just turn your camera off, stretch your legs a bit, and then turn the camera on, and we'll continue with the session. We will also be running a live Q&A session after each speaker's talk. And if you have any questions for the speaker, I will let you know when the question and answer session starts. Then you can unmute yourself and ask your question to the speaker directly. Now, without further ado, I would like to turn the time over to our webinar chief guest, Dr. B.C. Nirmal. And to introduce him, I would request Hema to please introduce Dr. B.C. Nirmal to us.
Yes, thank you, Ruchita. And the most cordial of welcomes to Professor B.C. Nirmal, sir, esteemed chief guest of today's session, who is former Vice Chancellor of National University of Study and Research in Law, Ranchi, Jharkhand. I deem it great honor to introduce Professor B.C. Nirmal, sir. He is, according to a blog, one among the 5 top professors of Banaras Hindu University. He has to his credit 9 books, 74 articles, including 9 foreign journals, 27 chapters in edited books, and 1 book reviews. Professor B.C. Nirmal, sir, is a distinguished legal educator with more than 41 years of teaching and research experience in the field of law. As a dean, sir played a pioneering role in the all-round development of the faculty of law. It was during his deanship that prestigious Law Banaras Journal was updated and digitized. The first international conference and first Madan Mohan Malaviya moot court competition were organized during his deanship. His research papers were published in the form of 2 books. Professor B.C. Nirmal played a pivotal role in the introduction of new courses in law school. The name is The Ambition. BA LLB 5-year course, 1-year LLM course, and 8 diploma courses. Several seminars, conferences, moot court competitions, and other academic events have also been organized during his vice chancellorship. To make the campus green, more than 1,000 trees were planted as a social responsibility. His book, Right to Self-Determination, International Law, is a widely acclaimed book across the globe and has been cited by many foreign as well as Indian scholars. And this book is also prescribed in several universities. We are very glad to have the presence of such genius today as our esteemed chief guest. Over to Ruchita. Thank you.
Thank you, Hema. Dr. Nirmal, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, hi, sir. I can see you, but it seems like your auto rotate is turned off. You are in a vertical position right now.
Should we start with?
Sir, can you please turn the auto rotate on? Actually, you are. We can see you sideways and not in a horizontal position.
Now it is okay?
Just a minute, sir. I don't think it's fine. Just give me a minute, sir. So there's an option to turn the auto rotate on your phone, and that will allow the phone to rotate like this in horizontal position.
सीधा करना है।
Sir, if you scroll down like this on your notification panel, there will be an option of portrait. You have to turn it off and turn the auto rotate on. No, sir, it's still not fine.
Which, Ruchika, I do not know much about it. So let me sit where I am.
Sir, you're sitting fine. It's just that the auto rotate is not on. So because of that, we cannot see you properly. Like instead of like this, we can see you like this. Like your head is in the left direction for us. Hello everyone. I'm really sorry for the delay. Actually, there's some technical issue as we could see. So we are going to move ahead and we'll wait for BC Nirmal sir, and we will move ahead with our schedule. And now I would like to call Dr. Bala Ganpathi, who is the guest of honor for today's webinar. And I would ask Anuya to please introduce him to us.
Okay, thank you, sis. Uh, Now I'm privileged to call upon Dr. Bal Ganpathi, Sir, Head of Department of Philosophy at University of Delhi. His research interests are in area of Indian philosophy, social, religion, and political philosophy. Some of his publications include Role of Guru as an Interpreter of Dharma in 2017. He is presently working on a project titled Yoga Consciousness in Mahabharata, Ethical Value for Political Well-Being. He was the editor-in-chief for International Journal of Applied Ethics by Ramanujan College, Delhi. Member of Editorial Board, Journal of Indian Council of Philosophical Research. He was the chairman of governing body of Maitrey College, New Delhi for year 2020 and 2021. I welcome you onto the stage, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for that
You're
wonderful
welcome, sir.
introduction. Namaste to all of you. I hope I'm audible, right?
Yes, sir, you're audible. And actually, before you begin, I just want to say I remember your last time speech that I heard, and it was so amazing. I'm so eager to listen to you today. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for that nice word. Yeah, Tejasvi Astitva Foundation. I must, before I begin, I must thank Tejasvi Astitva Foundation, especially Dr. DN Srivastava for this kind invitation. And I also thank VISAKHA Government Degree College for Women, which is collaborating this international webinar series. Especially, yeah, all the office brothers of the committee, I really appreciate their concern in choosing this particular theme that they have opted for this webinar. Future education and career, COVID aftermath. How do you look at, basically, as I understand, how do you look at the future? Let me make it on a lighter vein. Let me tell you that none of us can be futurologists, and none of us can predict future, right? We cannot do that. And obviously, we are not soothsayers. I am not a soothsayer who would predict the future. I am not a futurologist who can predict the future with accuracy. And I am also not an astrologer. So it's impossible for us to predict the future. But what is it that we are trying to do in this kind of a situation? See, basically, if you look at the context, present context, there is something which is understood to be before COVID-19, okay, which we term sometimes as normal. And we are in the transition period, and we are anticipating that we will be reaching into a stage which would be called new normal. That's how it is understood. It is not that we have reached this new normal. We are still in the process, and only new normal is characterized, the post-COVID situation is understood to be new normal. So in that kind of a situation, how do you look at the future? So you're trying to anticipate. See, first thing is, the present in which we are rooted itself is unprecedented. What do we mean by that? We are saying this situation in which we are now, which is a transition from pre-COVID to the post-COVID, is an unprecedented kind of one. We haven't seen, the generations which are alive now haven't seen such kind of a situation before. Even the histories haven't seen such kind of like global lockdown kind of situation any time before. So which means the present itself is so unpredictable and uncertain, and we want to predict the future, right? So rooting or standing in the unpredictable, unprecedented present, how do we predict the unprecedented or something that has to be rooted in the present, which is uncertain and unprecedented? And how do we do that? That's the challenge to all the intellectuals of any time, for that matter. So that's what the intellectuals are supposed to do and supposed to respond to the situation, because all the time the responsibility of the intellectuals is to react to the present and try to construct the possible futures. I'm not saying there is only one future. Probably the concrete future would be one, but possible futures are innumerable. So that's what we have to explore, and we have to, so that these future possibilities that we are trying to explore would help us in preparing ourselves for the possible futures. Okay, that is how the present analysis and present theme is very important, and that is where I really appreciate the efforts of Astitva Foundation, Tejasvi Astitva Foundation, and Vishakha Government Degree College in proposing this particular theme. Yeah, having said that, let me come to the theme. No, what is it that we are trying to look at? Of course, future. Okay, I already told you future is unpredictable, but even then we'll make an attempt in that direction. So what is it in future that we are trying to look at? Number one, education. Number two, career. So how do we do that? Education is not, though it looks to be a simple, innocent term, it is not that innocent and that simple a term, education, right? It is a complex kind of system that we are referring to when we are using the term education. Similarly, the term career is not such a simple one, because it involves many complex aspects within it. So we have to look at these two complexities and try to understand what kind of possibilities can exist for us in future with regard to education and with regard to career as well. So this is the present concern that I have, and I'll try to do a little kind of analysis. See, basically I am a philosopher. I'm so happy to be associated with this webinar for another reason as well. I belong to Andhra and I belong to Kakinada, in fact. In fact, my in-laws are from Vishakhapatnam. That's how I find this, I feel this affinity to this webinar from a different perspective as well, which is completely personal and deep. Yeah. So now when we look at this education and the career, there are certain paradigm shifts that have happened, that have been happening since the beginning of the person trying to understand anything that is around him or around her. So since if you take back and if you try to go back in the time and try to see when is it that the individual first tried to know something, from then to the present, there were continuous paradigm shifts that have come up, and with which human beings have sufficiently acquainted themselves, and not just acquainted themselves, they have mastered as well. So that's what gives us a kind of optimistic perspective, where we can say that, yeah, it's not that the situation is completely pessimistic where I cannot do anything, but yes, I can do something and I can conquer the situation, I can master the situation, I can master anything that is given to me at any point of time, so that I can sustain myself. So with that optimism, let me have a look at this concept of education that we are referring to. Before we go into any kind of analysis on education, it is required that we should have a look at the conceptions of education that we have in the past, in the history. So, for example, if somebody asks us, like, what is education for you, we will say that it is a process, because education is never it never ends. No, it is a continuous process. Sometime back, we used to think that it ends after a particular time, but actually now in the contemporary world, we have understood that education is never ending, and each one of us have to continuously equip ourselves. Whether you are into teaching profession or any other profession, you have to continuously update yourself and be a learner, so that you can lead your life in a comfortable way. So that is how it is a process facilitating learning. This is a simple way of understanding, but it doesn't clarify much regarding the education that we are referring to. Some people do argue, saying that education is the acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, beliefs, and habits. I am reading these, or I'm stating these previously existent conceptions of education for a particular reason. Because only if we can understand the conceptions that are existent already, we will be able to understand how we would apply this particular perspective of education to the future one that we are trying to look at. So in that particular context, I would restate each one of these conceptions of education that we have. For instance, sometimes we understand that education is acquisition of knowledge. Yes. Skills, of course, it is required. Practicality is required. Values, beliefs, and habits as well. No. So now you have to understand it in the modern, contemporary transition period context and also post-transition period context, which we are anticipating. Whether the acquisition of knowledge is possible, whether acquisition of skills is possible, whether acquisition of values, beliefs, and habits is possible. What kind of, if it is possible, what kind of things that we are looking at? What kind of knowledge are we anticipating in this new normal or post-COVID world that we are looking at? And what kind of belief systems that we are going to create for ourselves or train ourselves or establish in our minds? No, because friends, we think that belief is something that that hinders the knowledge. But friends, let me tell you, belief is the foundation. Belief is the foundation. Even if you think that science is the one which is moving the world, that itself is also a belief. Okay. So even if we are talking about rationality and we think that no, rational is only the ultimate kind of one, but this itself is also a belief. That is how belief system is very important for every individual, and it is only because of the belief system the individual acts and reacts with the world, to the world. Okay. For example, if you're giving something to somebody, for instance, if I give a book to any of our friends, Richika ji, then the way she holds the book, she receives the book and holds the book is dependent on the belief system of the individual. No, if I give a religious symbol, then the way you receive would be different. And if I give a normal pen, the way you receive would be different. The difference between these two is rooted in the belief system that you have. And that is how each of your individual human actions are governed by your belief system, which is there in the mind, which we call often worldview, worldview that you build. So that is how worldview that you build is rooted in your belief system, and that's how belief system is very important. And don't think that belief is something that is against the rational, something that is against knowledge kind of things. Okay, it's very important. And some people do argue saying that education is the actualization of the potential. If at all you agree to this kind of a definition, how do you think the post-COVID world will help the kid, help the individual to actualize his potentialities? This is very important. As of now, we are trying to understand that largely, largely we are failing in actualizing the potentialities of the individuals in the regular mode of teaching and learning. And if we are switching to a different mode, then is it really possible for us to help the kid in actualize his potentialities? So this is another important point that we have to look at when we are looking at the post-COVID world. And the third and the next important one that was stated by Swami Vivekananda, it is the manifestation of perfection in human beings. Swami Vivekananda slight problem with my connectivity. Are you able to hear me now? Am I connected? No?
Yes, sir, we can hear you now. Earlier we were not able to, but you are audible now.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I was saying, Swami Vivekananda defined education as a manifestation of perfection in human beings. So, if we take education to be a manifestation of perfection in the human being, is it in the present context itself? We understand this definition is not being completely actualized, nor realized. So, if we are going education system is also drastically going to change itself, then what kind of perfection that we can see to be getting manifested in the individual is another important aspect that we have to look at. And if you look at Mahatma Gandhi's definition of education, it is an all-round development of body, mind, and spirit. Okay, so now, given that there is a physical presence possible, and given that we can interact with each other and we can see each other's behavior and dispositions, physical as well as mental dispositions, it is beginning for us to provide a complete all-round development to the individual. In fact, there are certain corporate schools and institutions which have come up with standardized their own protocols of teaching, which don't give the kid any chance of deviating from the studies, and the possibility of all-round development is already largely marginalized in the corporate school system that we have around us. And in this kind of a situation, if even this kind of situation is getting changed or modified drastically, and we are getting into a kind of virtual mode of teaching and learning in the post-COVID, how do we look at this all-round development in terms of the body, the mind, and the spirit? We don't give any space to spirit at all. If at all we are talking about the spirituality in the individual, which is also to be trained and educated to the individual, we don't see that traces of that in the present education system at all, and that is how the all-round development that we are talking about becomes completely impossible. So these are various definitions that are provided, and in fact, Tagore, another philosopher, educational philosopher, he says some education is something that makes our lives in harmony with all the existence around us. Your education has to make you lead your life in such a way that you would be leading your life in harmony with the world around you, which is far away in the present education system. And what kind of modifications may happen that happen in the post-COVID, and how do you retrain yourself in such a way that you can harmonize your life with the life around us, is another important aspect that we have to look at. So these are the certain kind of conceptions of education, the definitions of education that are already existent, which we are now, with the physical presence, the pre-COVID world itself has really struggled to realize or reach out to. And now we are in a completely transition period, and this transition period is going to lead us to a different kind of, at least with some modifications to the pre-COVID world that we are looking at. And in such kind of a situation, what kind of education is possible, and how do we make it useful to the individual? Because education, basically, we think that it is rooted in the individual and it is only for the individual. It is true that it is only for the individual, because at the individual level, he has to grow and he has to learn, and his learning and growth as an individual would affect his immediate past. So that is how he develops himself with the responsibility of giving back to his immediate present, his immediate surroundings, his immediate society, his immediate world around him. So unless he feels that responsibility, it is very difficult for us to say that this is the education, but but it doesn't give any kind of orientation towards responsibility to surroundings by the individual. So that is where what is very important in understanding the post-COVID education system is making the individual realize the responsibility, individual's responsibility to the other, and how do we reformulate it and how do we present it to the individual is very important. Let me go further quickly because I understood I was asked initially to speak for 1 hour, but I think other speaker is also waiting, so I will try to limit myself to as much less time as possible, but I will try to cover all the points that I had in my mind to complete. Yeah, basically, if you're looking at the education system, we understand that there is a learner and there is a teacher and the learner, right? And this teaching and learning process is facilitated by certain kind of things. And what are these things? Like infrastructure. And when it comes to infrastructure, we understand that physical infrastructure is very important. And along with physical infrastructure, there is non-physical infrastructure as well, which plays a crucial role in the individual's development. So what I mean by physical infrastructure is classrooms, libraries, etc. And what I mean by non-physical infrastructure is like curriculum and pedagogy. Okay, so these are very important components if you try to analyze the map of education process or education. No? So within that, what are the problems that we face? Like, for example, the learner now, and see, whenever we talk about the post-COVID, we would be rooting the discussion in the present because the transition period would be leading us to the post-COVID. So that's how we have to take this into consideration in thinking of or conceptualizing the future situation. That is how we see since last almost 5-6 months, we are into virtual mode of teaching. Okay, March is the time when the lockdown was announced, and immediately we did not switch to online teaching. But I think from April, May onwards, we started teaching virtually, and now this virtual mode of teaching is continuing, and we are not sure when it is going to completely end. No, we are definitely switching to hybrid mode where the physical classroom as well as virtual mode would continue together, because some parents may not, some parents are objecting to virtual mode and some parents are objecting to the physical mode. That is how the institutions, educational institutions, on the suggestions of the government of India, are trying to change or switch to hybrid mode where physical as well as virtual mode would be offered, and those who opt for physical mode would attend the classes, going to the classrooms, and those who opt for virtual mode would be sitting at home and listening to the same lecture, which is being telecasted through online mediums. So this learner, how would this learner get affected? I have told you, learner and teacher and learner, and then physical, and then the infrastructure. So let me begin with learner. How is it going to affect his biological capacity? Okay, so far the biological mechanism so far is only trained in such a way, and I'm only saying trained because you can train the individual in any possible way. It's not that if we are learning things in a particular way so far, it is not that tomorrow you cannot learn things in a different way. So that infinite possibility is always there in the individual. This is what Indian tradition largely believes in, no? Because that's how the potentiality that we talk about is infinite potentiality, and the capability in the individual has is infinite capability, and that is how he can change his modes of learning and training very easily. But whether that affects the biological system is the point where we have to stop for a while and try to understand. And that is where, see, already there are certain health concerns that are coming up, in the sense that when I was talking to my, in fact, many of my students in Delhi University have complained and have written complaints to the university and the government of India, saying that we have problems with our eyes, and eyes are getting dried and we get burning sensation because of excessive screen time that we are devoting, getting stuck to the computer screens is creating a problem to them. So people are already expressing concerns regarding the biological system, getting equipped with, getting acquainted with, or getting getting along with the new mode of learning that has come up. No, so this biological system is getting affected, and along with the biological system, the psychological system is also getting affected in the sense that students are losing focus. See, I see. Basically, I teach philosophy in Delhi University. I'm heading the department here, and unfortunately, in Andhra, philosophy departments are getting closed. But in Delhi University, the situation is really good in the sense that we have for MA program, we give admission to 340 students for MA program per batch. Which means we have huge crowd of students, but when we start teaching in online mode, you hardly see half of the people turning up for the class, and even those students, of course, I'm not denying that there are good number of students who are interested and who attend to the lectures carefully and try to respond to them, but most of them have lacked this focus, in what is being happening, and also a kind of excessive anxiety that builds in the individuals that, yeah, I'm not able to learn, I'm not able to understand kind of things, because the physical presence is always important. In fact, if you look at the classical Indian tradition, if you are acquainted with the Dakshinamurti Stotra, it tells us that the presence of the teacher, the silent presence of the teacher itself is sufficient for the student to get his doubts clarified. So that's how the knowledge, the transmission of knowledge, and the possibility of transmission of knowledge, and the importance of the presence of the teacher or guru is stressed in classical Indian tradition. Now, your physical absence and virtual presence both create a kind of dichotomy in the minds of the kids, and that creates a kind of psychological imbalance as well, which is a fact of life now. And coming to the teacher, and teacher is also not happy, because as I often say, as teachers, we have plenty of challenges in front of us, because we have to teach many generations, because sometimes teachers who are in teaching, who have been teaching in a particular college for 20 to 30 years, they would teach the father as well as the son or the daughter, which means you would be teaching generations of people continuously, and that is where you have larger responsibility as well as larger concerns of updating your skills continuously, which is a very important aspect. So, and also along with that, you have to switch to a different kind of mode and try to equip yourself with the skills of virtual teaching and virtual evaluation, which demand a lot of time in training ourselves. Even if you train, you may say that, yeah, when I start standing in front of the camera and start talking of teaching the lesson that I've prepared, it becomes very difficult. Somehow, some of us are getting used to it and we are able to adapt very quickly, but not every teacher can get adapted to such kind of a situation. So, equipping ourselves with the skills and also standing in front of the camera and talking, that itself becomes very difficult, and that is where the teachers have bigger and larger challenges than the students, and also the teacher will be comfortable in the physical environment in the sense that he would be teaching the kids who are sitting there. So he understands, he tries to analyze the IQ of the people and then try to get into their minds and try to teach them in whichever possible way which suits all of them. So if there is no physical presence, there is also a kind of element of suspicion that parents would be sitting there and trying to teach. So they would, parents, I'm not saying it is wrong, but parents would always think from their own perspective or from their kids' perspective. but the teacher has to think about 60 students perspectives and 60 plus 2 probably 120 parents perspectives, which becomes very difficult for the which makes the life of the teacher very difficult. So all these things enhance the anxiety of the teacher as well, and that is how I would often say this, that see, if you're taking a class, do you consider class to be your class to be a repetition, mere repetition? Some people who are not in teaching profession tend to say that, "Arey, what will he teach? He will only repeat whatever notes that he has prepared long back, or the notes that he has prepared during his own student days, and repeat." Right? This is how some people try to give a kind of negative picture or negative perception that is existent among the people. But actually, do you consider that the class is only a repetition, mere repetition? No, it's not mere repetition. And how do you understand it? Or if it is not repetition, then do you consider your own class to be a stage, where you go and give a live performance of whatever knowledge that you have? No, because in a stage performance, what happens is, though you would be going there and giving a performance, but your script is already scripted. Whatever you are supposed to talk is already scripted, and that is how it is not even a stage performance. I consider teaching to be a spontaneous performance, spontaneous monologue that you create. Okay, it is a creative, spontaneous performance that you do in the classroom, because next minute, what is the word that you are going to use, you don't know. And in stage performance and repetition, that is already determined. But when a teacher gets into the class, he doesn't know what is the next word that you would be using. He will know, or she will know, that this is the syllabus that I'm going to cover. But depending on the students, and looking at the presence of the students, looking at the faces of the students, you always change your intonation, you always change your performance, and you tend to repeat a couple of times, you tend to stop the repetition a couple of times. So this whole thing is a spontaneous performance by the teacher, and this kind of a situation unfortunately would be missed on the virtual platforms that we are into now, because you have no chance of looking at the faces of the kids, because we haven't reached that stage where the virtual platforms facilitate the presence of everyone with audios and videos in front of you. So this creates a problem to all of us. So that's where the issues regarding the learner, the teacher, come up. And looking at the if you go further into infrastructure also creates huge problems, in the sense that the virtual classroom, the physical classroom, is changed into virtual classroom, and in the virtual classroom there is an invisibility that is existent. Invisibility in the sense that the students' invisibility and students' physical invisibility, students sometimes psychological invisibility, and there is an intrusion of invisibility by others. So all these aspects really disturb the infrastructure, the homogeneous infrastructure that has to exist there becomes completely jeopardized, and that is how it becomes very difficult, even with regard to the infrastructure that we are talking about. But of course, when it comes to pedagogy, syllabus, and curriculum, it may remain same, but evaluation systems are changing, and changing drastically. In fact, I should say that with regard to the internal assessments, we are all given absolute freedom to choose the mode of internal evaluation, and in consultation with the students. So this is one of the blessings, but also it has its own difficulties as well. And it is the transmission of teaching and learning that physical infrastructure facilitates, that also has drastically changed. So what I wanted to say is, with regard to, there are two important aspects with regard to education that I would like to stress here. The freedom. First aspect is freedom. So the freedom of the learner and freedom of the teacher both have got affected strongly. I'm not saying positively or negatively, because there are positive aspects as well as negative aspects with regard to this concept of freedom, how the individual, whether it is learner or whether it is a teacher, getting affected. So this is one important aspect. And the second important aspect is responsibility. As I was saying, any kind of human action, okay, has to be endowed with some form of responsibility. And if at all we are saying that we are trying to teach the students, we are making this educational system available to the students, then the question that we have to ask is how responsible we are trying to make the learner, how responsible we are trying to make the teacher, and how responsible the system, with physical infrastructure and non-physical infrastructure, the system that has built, that was built and that would be built for the future generations, would help the individuals, both teachers and learners, to become responsible. And this is where the crucial crux of the issue lies. So how does this new education system or post-COVID situation of education affect the responsibility of each one of the stakeholders is an important question that we have to look into and that we have to address. Yeah, these are some of the observations that I have regarding the education. Let me just quickly take 5 more minutes to talk about the career that we have to talk, that we have as another aspect in the theme. Okay, when we talk about career, yeah, there are paradigm shifts in the career as well. If you look back, probably in the classical times or post-Vedic and Puranic or later times, we had kulavrittis, but basically the caste-based professions. But later on, actually, these are not completely caste-based professions. These are productivity-based professions. That's how we have to talk about, productivity-based professions. And these productivity-based professions have given space for industry-based professions. And industry-based professions are not dealing with the productivity. And that is how we had new professions that have come up other than the productivity ones. But these professions are also largely rooted in the productivity related ones. But in the recent past, especially in the 21st century in which we are now, there is an upsurge of different kind of professions which are neither rooted in the productivity or not rooted in the industries which are rooted in the productivity, which is service sector. That's where the contemporary world is completely, or at least majorly, influenced with, and the professions that we have, the careers that we are talking about, are largely preserved by the service sector. And in the service sector, what are the things that we have in the recent past? If you look at like tourism, logistics, and computer software industry, service sector, which is largely dominated everything, and also the economy, multinational companies coming forward and trying to provide service. And these were not just marketing things; they were also trying to develop a kind of call center service. So that is how as well service sector has boomed in the recent past. With regard to medical or education course, whatever it may be. Okay, so these developments have marginalized the place for individual vendors and individual economy, individual based rooted economy, and small economies. Now we are looking at the transition period. Now you try to understand the transition period. During the transition period, I understand that most of the MNCs and big markets have got negatively affected for sure. Okay, but the smaller economies, smaller shops, and individual based shops have sustained themselves. Okay, so when it comes to the services, so that small change of looking back and trying to adapt or go back to the traditional mechanisms has really given value. Having said that, I would also submit to this point to all of you to consider. For instance, immediately after the lockdown, in the initial stages, everybody looked at self-sustenance of the village, because even the transportation was largely stopped. Since the transportation was stopped, every individual unit has to become self-sufficient. So there was a complete retrospection about the way we were trying to lead our lives, and the way probably we should stop looking at ourselves and try to become self-sustained. And this is very important aspect that has happened in the transition period. I hope this provides certain strong insights for what kind of professions and what kind of careers that should come up in the future times. Having said that, even here with regard to this professions, I have certain observations in terms of the uncertainty that looms large in all of us, because both the employer and employee would be always endowed with a sort of uncertainty which disturbs them. And the second important point is, again, I would go back and bring that here: freedom, concept of freedom. Both will be constrained by their freedom. The employee also has certain restrictions on his freedom, because he doesn't know when he's going to lose the job, and employer also will not be able to manage everybody, and there would be a lot of restrictions with regard to the physical distancing, etc., which would make the employer to recruit more number of people who can be accommodated in the office at one place. So that is how there would be a kind of restriction on the part of the on the part of both employer and employee with regard to the freedom that they can exercise. And the most important aspect that I would stress once again is responsibility. Responsibility towards whom becomes very hugely important one. Is it responsibility towards the employer or employee, or is it the responsibility towards the society, or is it responsible towards the country's economy? So all these aspects disturb the employers a lot in working towards that, and employee also will have a lot of serious questions regarding the concept of responsibility. The concept of responsibility is rooted in trust. So in the contemporary, the transition period, as well as the post-transition period or post-COVID period that we are looking at, the trust is the one which really gets mostly misplaced. I will not say there will not be any trust at all, but it will be mostly misplaced. Misplaced in the sense, for example, I'm not saying that we cannot trust anybody around us, but there would be a kind of situation, even if you trust the other, for instance, in the COVID-19 times that we are talking about now, the other may be innocent and he may be a asymptomatic carrier. So that is how the trust is not believing the actions of the other, but other may innocently carry something. So that is where the trust is completely misplaced, or misplaced, that I would say. I'm not saying rejected, misplaced, and which becomes a facticity of life of the individuals, which is very important for all of us to have a look at. And when it comes to the professions, we see a major shift in terms of artificial intelligence trying to usurp most of the small professions. For example, I would say tomorrow you may not find a receptionist, only you would find robo receptionists. Similarly, even when you go to the hospitals, robots would be replacing the preliminary health checkup. When you go there as a patient, the preliminary health details would be taken by the robots rather than the individual. So because we are trying to move away from the physical mode of interaction to a different kind of situation, which would be interlinked, or which would be supported by artificial intelligence, then professions which are involved in the bringing people together, service sector, would largely get affected, and which is really an important one which we have to seriously take into consideration. That is how what I see is a kind of a bigger picture that we have to look at, and in this bigger picture for the future, there are opportunities and there are also certain kinds of problems that we clearly say, and how people would be able to cope up with that is what is now required in terms of, I think, this conference that is being organized by Astitva Foundation has to initiate the discussion as to how we prepare ourselves for taking all these facticities into consideration, how we prepare ourselves for the post-COVID world or post-COVID job market and post-COVID forms of education. So in this regard, I would consider this webinar to be a very important one. And I thank the organizers, especially Dr. DN Srivastava, for this wonderful opportunity that is given to me. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Although we had given you a specific time and there was some technical flaw at the beginning and we were delayed by about 10-15 minutes. I'm sorry for the delay that caused inconvenience to you. And I'm really grateful that you have joined this webinar and given such a marvelous and informative content that you read out here. Was really marvelous thing, and people should understand and benefit. And I will not say much about you, but yes, I can say that you are a real philosopher, not just for the saying purpose, but what you speak, the way you speak, the way you make people understand by your words, and the speaking and talking style. This itself shows that yes, you are a philosopher. Thank you very much, sir. We are really honored and grateful to you that you joined us. Thank you very much once again. Ruchika, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Professor Balaganpati. I thoroughly enjoyed your talk. There were a couple of points that I noted down that I especially loved. One was about how important habits are when it comes to education. And I think it's really important to teach people about habits, because a massive action taken in one day is not going to really create a big impact. But what we do, a small action taken every single day, is what is going to move the needle. So I think it's really important to teach that to children when it comes to education. Another point that you made was about belief system, and I absolutely love that point as well, because I think our belief system is what shapes our personality, and that is what ultimately determines our future. So I absolutely love those 2 points and the whole talk as well. So thank you so much, sir. And now I would ask all the participants to please, anybody who has any question for Professor Balaganpati, please unmute yourselves and ask your question. Does anyone have any question?
Sir, thank you, sir. Sir, what is the rate of employment after the COVID-19?
As I told you, I am not a soothsayer. I am not even an astrologer. I cannot predict, but definitely there would be, as I was saying, some of the professions would be replaced by artificial intelligence, and that is how it's definitely going to get affected negatively, and how much and etc. That we have to see in the future. But it's definitely going to affect negatively. Yeah, thank you so much, Sandhya ji.
I don't think Dr. Balaganpati is a person who can rightly answer this question. He is a philosopher and he can tell you if you are unemployed, how you should lead your life. That he can tell you. How you should be happy in such situations. That he can tell you. If you have nothing in hand, how you can be happy and you can lead a peaceful life. That he can tell you. He can tell you how to lead a tension-free life. And those things you can ask. And about employment, he is not the right person, because definitely he's sitting in a government college and university, but he's not in the government to take decisions. Sir, Ruchika is a motivational speaker and she's an inspirational speaker. She's on the YouTube, and lot of people she has as fans across the world, and she wants to discuss many things with you about philosophy. So I am Ruchika, you can talk to sir anytime, and
Yeah,
I think
please.
sir you will not mind her talking, because she's a great speaker and she wants to have more and more knowledge from you. And sometimes back she was telling me also that she wants one-to-one talk with you on her YouTube channel also. So
Sure, definitely.
you
I'll be happy to
allow
do
her
that.
to do this. Ruchika, you can take the permission.
Yes, sir, I will definitely contact you, and I would want you to give an interview for my YouTube channel as well.
Sure, definitely. I would be there. Definitely.
Thank you, sir.
So
Thank
much
you.
for your interest, and I'll be happy to be there. No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Namaste.
All right, so that was a great talk by Professor Bala Ganpathi. Everyone here sitting in this webinar, I would request you all to please turn your video on, because obviously I don't think Professor Ganpathi would have enjoyed speaking to your initials like R, A, G, and J. Plus, this whole webinar is being telecast live on the DN News, so it's not looking good. Please turn your cameras on. I am going to wait for a minute for all of you to turn your camera on. Everyone, please, could you please turn your cameras on?
Ruchika, you can take Dr. BC Nirmal, because
Yes.
he's connected now, and you can start the introduction, because people will slowly keep turning on their video cameras on. So you can start with the program. Keep continuing it.
Okay, all right. So now we will move ahead with Dr. BC Nirmal. Sir, we are very, very honored to have you here today and very eager to listen to what you have to say. I will again ask Hema to please introduce Dr. BC Nirmal quickly so that we can start with his talk.
Thank you, Ruchika. The most cordial of welcomes to Professor B.C. Nirmal Sir, esteemed Chief Guest of today's session, who is former Vice Chancellor of National University of Study and Research in Law, Ranchi, Jharkhand. I deem it great honor to introduce Professor B.C. Nirmal Sir. He is, according to a blog, one among the 5 top professors of Banaras Hindu University. He has to his credit 9 books, 74 articles, including 9 foreign journals, 27 chapters in edited books, and 12 book reviews. Professor B.C. Nirmal Sir is a distinguished legal educator with more than 41 years of teaching and research experience in the field of law. As a dean, Sir played a pioneering role in the all-round development of the faculty of law. It was during his deanship that prestigious Law Banaras Journal was updated and digitized. The first international conference and first Madan Mohan Malviya moot court competition were organized during his deanship. His research papers were published in the form of 2 books. Professor B.C. Nirmal Sir played a pivotal role in the introduction of new courses in law school. The name is The Ambition. BA LLB 5 years course, 1 year LLM course, and 8 diploma courses. Several seminars, conferences, moot court competitions, and other academic events have also been organized during his vice chancellorship. To make the campus green, more than 1,000 trees were planted as a social responsibility. His book, Right to Self-Determination, International Law, is a widely acclaimed book across the globe and has been cited by many foreign as well as Indian scholars, and this book is also prescribed in several universities. We are very glad to have the presence of such a genius today as our esteemed chief guest. Thank you. Over to Ruchika.
Thank you, Hema. Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Can I start?
Yes, sir, please.
It is a matter of great pleasure for me to be with you in this national webinar on the future of education and career, COVID aftermath. This is the 3rd time when I am participating in the programs organized by Astitva, whose director is Mr. DN Srivastava.
Namaste, sir.
I am happy that he had taken much interest in organizing webinars, national as well as international, on different aspects of education. Today's topic is very important, but before I speak something about it, I would like to say that this title or theme of the seminar consists of three parts: future of education, future of career, and COVID aftermath. So I will start with COVID aftermath, and then I will come to education and career. I am very much surprised and in fact wonderstruck that almost all webinars, national and international, are being organized on different aspects of knowledge in the context of or against the background of COVID-19. It appears as if coronavirus is not a disaster for us. Its arrival is not a disaster for us. It is in fact a boon for us. And we are trying to find out opportunity in the adversity created by this global pandemic, which is certainly a very wrong notion about this pandemic, its causes, consequences, and effects on all parts of the world, as well as on parts of our own country. When coronavirus struck China first, it was said here by a section of illiterate and irrational people that it is a kind of incarnation of Lord Vishnu, who has come to punish the Chinese people for certain things. And it was also claimed that it will not come to India because India is a Devabhumi, so it will not come here at all. And some of them said that if at all it comes to India, then the epidemics caused by coronavirus will be cured by cow urine and cow dung. And that's why this country remained insincere and did not take these calamities seriously as it should have taken. And when the government awaked from slumber, then lockdown was imposed at the notice of 4 hours. Remember that most of the problems we are facing today is because of wrong decisions taken about lockdown and imposition of it at a wrong time in a wrong manner. So this is one thing which we should take into account when casualties were very less and number of persons affected by coronavirus were very few. Then lockdown was imposed throughout the country. And when the number of infected persons has increased beyond 60 lakhs and nearly more than 1 lakh people are getting infected by coronavirus today, we have introduced on lockdown 5. So this is the thing which we should keep into mind when we are going to consider the problems of higher education and career. Remember, there are already many commissions and committees, and their reports are already there, and some of them are rotting in the archives. And recently, our government has introduced new education policy. I did not think it necessary to go into it because I did not have time for it. But somebody had told me that new education policy is nothing but a new blend of RSS agenda and control of corporate sector. I don't know how much this comment is true about this new education policy. But certainly, when we talk about education, we cannot only confine ourselves to higher education. Most important part of education is elementary and primary education. And as per Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, it is the right of every child up to certain age to get elementary and primary education from the state. So let us look at the state of primary education. We always talk about higher education. What is it about primary education? And again, you find that it is being claimed that now education will be done at the lower and primary level with the mother tongue, local mother tongue. This is not a new thing. It was already there. But since the importance of English as an international language has increased over the years, guardians or parents are sending their sons and daughters to English medium schools. I personally feel that we have USP because most of our students, graduates, postgraduates, and doctorates have a better knowledge of English than the nationals of China, Japan, and other South Asian countries. So let it be left to the discretion of the parents to which school they should send their parent wards and in which language their wards or sons or daughters should study at the primary level. I had studied with mother tongue, that is Hindi, and we started teaching learning English at the 6th standard. So that cannot be called an innovation. That cannot be called an innovation. Now, it has been said, and it is being said many times, that we are now teaching through online digital platforms. I would like to say that nothing has changed because of COVID. It was already there. Online lectures were there. E-Parsala was there. E-contents were being prepared and put on websites of Nodal University. So what has happened is that private colleges and institutions, and now even central and state university, have switched to online lectures, online classes, online examination, and even online entrance examination. This is not a new, something was already there. Practice was there. Technology was there. And we are now using it more frequently because in our opinion, there is no stable time for following the old mode of teaching. I always used to say my students that there was a time when teachers were in the captain's seat of a ship. After the advent of internet and computer, the role and position of teachers relegated to that of facilitator. And now, after the arrival and use of digital technology, teachers have become just an user of digital technology for the purposes of dissemination of knowledge. See, I do not know much about digital technology or computers, but I have my own feeling about what kind of teaching should be there. Remember, for centuries and millennia, our students and pupils studied from their teachers in their vicinity and close contacts. And oral education was the only mode of education in those days. It was through oral education that we have been able to preserve an inexhaustible treasure trove of knowledge. So in those days, teaching was oral, education was oral. Even when, after the invention of printing press by Gutenberg, see, printing press was established in Europe. We didn't have that. And we used to write on Bhojpatra, palm leaves. And it was the missionaries which introduced printing press here, established them for the purpose of dissemination of gospel. So every time a new technology comes, teaching and its mode are also changed accordingly. This is nothing new. You have facility, and now you are using that facility. That facility should be used. But I am still of the opinion that there can be no substitute of classroom teaching. You have just seen technical glitches because of which I could not speak earlier. How many remote places or inaccessible places are connected with Wi-Fi? How many poor people have smartphones? So many people are not acquainted with digital technology, and digital technology facilities are not available in many parts of the country. And we are talking about online lectures and online education, online assessment and evaluation. So always think over what the objectives of education. What are the objectives of education? What a teacher is supposed to do. During more than 41 years of teaching, I have experienced that all students are not of equal caliber. So they have different difficulty level, understanding level, and expectation level. And their expectation from teachers vary from student to student. And that is why when a teacher goes to a classroom, he says the face of the student, he sees the mood of the students, and then he calibrates his lecture so that he could be able to explain the things he is going to discuss with the students. So all that I want to say at the moment is that it is just a chance that we are now using digital technology on a scale not known before. It will remain there. It should remain there. I am not against innovation, but I am still of the opinion that it cannot take the place of classroom teaching. This is one point which I wanted to discuss here. Second thing is career. You already know that career prospects are determined by the opportunity of employment. Which opportunity of employment? That is supply demand. When we were LLM students, very few used to get the degree. So there was no problem for us to get employment. The only problem was whether employment will be in a degree college or a university. But now, many hundred LLM students are there. Some of them may get job here or there. Many PhDs in law are there. Many of them are not with job. They are looking for a job. And one thing very important, which I would like to say in the light of my own experience, Hindi speaking students are as much bright as English speaking students. But job opportunities for English speaking students are better than of those who speak Hindi as their mother tongue and who are not in a position to take a class in English. One or two students of mine have written very good books on different aspects of law, but they are still underpaid. And some of them are still unemployed. So we have to be very cautious about that. This mother tongue education and English language, that English has now become an international language. And since it has become an international language, we should also try to see that our students have sufficient knowledge of English. When I say career prospects, virtually there are no career prospects now. Our economy has been ruined beyond imagination. And you all know that presently economy is minus 23 GDP. So in this circumstance, the first and foremost task before the country would be to restore normalcy. And it is only when normalcy will be restored that we can think of creation of new job opportunities. You already know that there are high unemployment rates in the last 45 years. And this lockdown has not created any new job, but it is because of which many people have lost their jobs. So career is there. So what kind of career will be? I'm not of the opinion that there is now an aftermath of COVID. COVID is already there and COVID will remain there. And I have been told that we are surpassing all countries in terms of numbers of people getting infected per day. So earlier it was said that this is a problem for United States and Western countries, but it has now come as a big problem for us. So it is perhaps wrong to say after mass COVID is already there. It may not be a problem for the present government because present government has its own policies, agenda, and mindset. For them, they are not bound to provide good quality education. They are not bound to provide quality health services. They are not bound to provide employment. So they can adopt the diversionary tactics to divert the attention of the countrymen from the basic issues we are facing now. So point is this, that we have to think over it. What can be done? What can be done during COVID and after normalcy returns, not only to this country, but in the world, because we are living in a global village. And we are not living only a global village, but also a globalized village. So anything which takes place in any part of the world is bound to affect the people of other parts of the world. And that is why you need investment, you need technology transfer, you need other things. So if other countries are also facing massive economic crisis, we cannot expect that our things will also improve here immediately or spontaneously. We have to think about that. Third thing which I would like to say is that work from home was prevalent in United States. We have been hearing about work from home, but we did not have any idea how work from home is done. Now this practice had also come here, and it shows that work can be done from home. And if we go through this fact and adopt it in real life situation, what would happen? There would be massive retrenchment of employees. If our emphasis is only on
Dr. BC Nirmal, I
Yes.
would request you to kindly conclude in another 10 minutes because our next speaker from Hungary is online, is connected. And if you can please conclude
I am
within
going
10
to conclude
minutes.
just now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir.
I am going to conclude just now. So instead of creating job opportunity, we should think of retaining existing employment of persons who are in jobs. If teaching by this class lectures, online lectures starts and becomes successful, I have a hunch that many of the universities and colleges may retrench their teachers because there is hardly any need for physical presence of a teacher and classroom, and that is online lecture can be arranged with the help of a few teachers. Likewise, if we say that work from home, then again there will be no need for physical presence and employers may retrench the employed persons. Third thing which I would like to say just now is that already many foreign universities are offering online certificate or degree courses in different subjects. So it will also take shape here also. What is the need for a student to come to the university or college? He can learn while doing, or he can learn while living at his home. There will be a kind of crisis in the days to come if we stick to what we are doing just now because of COVID or because of the effect of COVID in our education sector. I am thankful to Dr. Srivastava for giving me a opportunity to speak with you. I had just shared some of the things which I feel about the future of higher education and career. And my submissions are only three. Number one, India is a welfare state. And the government cannot abandon its responsibility to provide good education, good health, and employment to citizens. So long as this constitutional framework is there, the state is bound to provide it. Just see what will be the impact of automation or frequent use of digital technology on our life. One thing is that. Number two point which I would like to say, I have been saying that every institution of higher learning should have international faculty, international studentship, global infrastructure, and global standard of past syllabus curriculum. Now is the time when with the help of online lectures and digital technology, we can realize some of it. For example, education in our country is relatively better than many African and Asian countries. We may associate them with ourselves. They may not be required to come here. Just as our people get online certificates and online degrees from Harvard and other universities, they can also get the education from our universities here. This can be done. And as webinars are very common and frequent, and we see the advantages of webinar also. one is not required to go physically. He can participate in a webinar by remaining at home. Likewise, professors of different universities may also be associated with the education programs of our university. And third thing is that time will only tell what kind of career there will be for our students. This situation or scenario is very gloomy. It has already become gloomier, and it is quite possible that it may be gloomier in the days to come until and unless corrective measures are taken by our government. Thank you, Dr. Srivastava. Thank you, participants, for giving me and listening to my lecture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for joining us in this webinar. You being head of the institution, head of the department, dean of Banaras Hindu University School of Law, and the vice chancellor of National Law University. What you have spoken is very, very relevant, and we hope that people abide by this. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope that in future also you will keep joining us with us and give us more information on education sector. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Now we have a very special guest, the keynote address speaker, Dr. Vilmos Vas from Budapest, Hungary. And Ruchika is going to take this program forward. But I would like to just take a few seconds to please remind you that this program is going live on the YouTube channel, on our news channel. Please switch on your videos, because this is a very important function and you should switch on your videos. Otherwise, it doesn't look nice. Thank you very much. Ruchika, over to you.
Thank you very much. I believe Dr. B.C. Nirmal has left the meeting, but it was definitely a wonderful talk by him. And now we will carry forward our program with our keynote speaker for today, Professor Vilmos Vas. And I would request Hema to please introduce him to us.
Okay, Ruchika, thank you. It's my pleasure to extend a cheerful welcome to Professor Vilmos Vas, the keynote speaker of today's session. And I feel it privileged to introduce Professor Vilmos Vas. Professor Vilmos Vas is Associate Professor of Education Science and a teacher of Hungarian language and literature, history and pedagogy. In this connection, I wish Vas sir and all the teachers a happy World Teachers Day today, because teachers literally create every other profession in the world. Teachers should be proud for being a teacher. Professor Vas sir has been teaching in universities for 38 years. He is a board member of several national and international associations. Between 2004 and 2010, he was a member of the European Union Key Competences Cluster. In 2003 and 2007, he was the head of the revision on the National Core Curriculum and the Implementation Board. He is member of the editorial board of national and international journals. Now, he works at the Budapest Metropolitan University, Hungary. He is the author of nearly 200 Hungarian and English language publications. His research area and recent publications are on learning-centered curriculum theory and creative knowledge transfer. Really, we are so fortunate to have such a nice linguist today whose presence makes us very, very happy. Thank you, Ruchika. Over to Ruchika.
Thank you, Hema. Hello, Professor Vas. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Very, very eager to listen to you, and we are so honored to have you here today.
Great pleasure to be here anyway. I like to share my presentation to you. I hope that it will success. You see? No? How can I share my presentation? Please help me.
Yes, sir.
I have PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, sir. You will see an option present now.
Sumit, could you help me?
Yes, I can. Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
Professor Vas, if you look at the bottom on the right-hand corner, there is a Present Now button there on your screen. If you click on that,
yes,
there will be options to share your entire screen. If you click on the entire screen, you will be able to go ahead. If you want, I can start the presentation from my end as well.
Okay, please.
Okay, I will do it from my end then. Just bear with me.
Thank you. And I will start. Sorry.
I hope.
Mainly, I use Zoom system at my
Yeah,
university.
I can understand. Okay, I'm not sure if. Okay, I will start the presentation and then you can speak on it. And let me just know when you want to move the next to the
Yes,
next
exactly.
slide.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for your help.
No problems. Okay. Can you?
Great.
Okay. Can everybody see the presentation now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Excellent.
super. So good afternoon, everybody. So dear colleagues, on my presentation, I like to focus on redesigning learning in the 21st century before and after and during the COVID-19 period. And I'd like to take my presentation to you at two levels, the global level and the local level as well. Sumit, could you move forward, please? The next slide, please. So first of all, I'd like to thank you for your honorable invitation in India. And this is my second time to present here. One is the offline international seminar more than a year ago, and Baroda University, the Vadodara. And that was one of my first keynote speech in India. And this is the second time, and I really appreciate your invitation here. Why I choose this photo? Not just because of my memory. And could you take here next slide, please?
Yep.
But because I think the key connection, which I try to clarify here, that the attitudes and the connection and related with learning in this period, it's getting more and more importance. Effective elements on learning, not just the cognitive parts, and especially based on the growing importance of attitudes. So this is my key element on my presentation. Please, next slide. This is not new idea, that from the historical point, I like to cite John Dewey famous quote, namely the most important attitude that can be formed is that of desire to go on learning. So desire, the will, the curiosity, and intrinsic motivation behind learning, I think in the 21st century, that's the most important challenge nowadays. Not just because of attitudes. Next slide, please. But because of learning to learn as a key competence, especially the European Union made recommendations to the public and higher education sector as well, defining 8 key competency areas, and one of the most important areas that learning to learn competence, because of, that's a lifelong learning period nowadays, and we need to prepare our students to become effective citizens on this learning and knowledge-based society. And not just because of learning lifelong learning dimension, but I'd like to stress life-wide learning period. So that's why I'd like to give you some examples from the local level at my university. How can we handle these challenges in order to improve learning to learn key competence to the students? The next slide, please. Behind this challenge, that's the structure. Please move. This is the structure of competency areas. That's the triangle. Behind this triangle, there are some important relevant questions to the teachers, to the professionals, and to the members of the society as well, decision makers especially. So what kind of knowledge is getting more and more importance in the 21st century? On the basis of the cognitive psychologists, for instance, the structure, the knowledge structure is based on declarative knowledge, which is important for what, which is important for facts, which is important of cognitive areas. But the second pillar of this knowledge, declarative knowledge is based on a lot of skills. On the basis of the international surveys, for instance, PISA survey, Hungarian students are really good at declarative knowledge, so using cognitive areas, but they are not so good at applied level, using procedural knowledge. So that's why I put the top of the triangle of this challenge. So what kind of knowledge is getting more and more importance? Of course, we need to find a balance between declarative and procedural elements of knowledge. The next part of the triangle, skills. We have lots of references, books, articles about 21st century skills, but I like to stress here the key concept of skill gap. The skill gap is based on the long distance between the education and work sector, and work sector has indicated a lot of potential 21st century skills, especially put here the 4 C's model on this area: communication, critical thinking and problem solving, collaboration, and creativity and innovation. And the third part of this triangle behind the competency structure, the attitudes, and I raised some points, previous slides about this one. Next slide, please. So after my introduction part, I like to turn the menu on my keynote because I need to tell you some myth of learning from the 19th and 20th century. And after that, the latest data on learning science and what is in redesigning learning. And turning to the conclusion, I like to put here the next triangle, especially learning, creativity, and motivation. And at the end of my presentation, I'd like to raise some conclusions. Next slide, please. So this is the key triangle behind my speech. It's learning, creativity, and motivation. How can we find the relevant personalized paths during the life career on learning and via the creative and innovative environment? And finally, the key issue, the intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, especially the tendency is highlighting the intrinsic motivation, especially on the basis of the international data, self-efficacy of learning period. Next slide, please. So some myth on learning. As you know, that there are 3 types of learning. That's a formal, non-formal, and informal learning. And if we, this is my hypothesis, and not just my hypothesis, if we focus on just only formal learning inside the classroom, the interpretation of the 21st century meaning of learning, this is not learning. As you know that the, for instance, focus on tacit knowledge, as the Polanyi wrote the famous book, Importance of Tacit Knowledge. And tacit knowledge is absolutely based on non-formal and informal learning. And the ratio is quite interesting because in the 21st century, there's the bigger focus on non-formal and informal learning than the formal one. And the traditional education ethos just has emphasized the importance of formal learning. This is the myth. This is the first myth on learning. The second myth is that the importance of so-called old learning, the narrow meaning of learning, which is based on short-term memory, memorization, and concentration on immediate knowledge acquisition. And this is the fact-based learning concept. And on the basis of the research, especially at the end of the 20th century, this is not learning as well, because we need to understand what we learned, and after that we need to use what we learned in education. The next myth is that there are lots of articles about general competencies, but in the 21st century, via the 21st century skills, it's getting more and more importance on domain-specific skill areas. So the key factor on this area, that how can we enrich the domain in order to find a new connection and use the domain in the new situation as well. And finally, I like to stress here the last myth, and this is just based on the cognitive domains. No, especially in this difficult situation, the COVID-19 just raised the importance of affective and psychomotoric domains as well. Think about, for instance, revived Bloom taxonomies as well, and the great